Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to season 6. And if I am not mistaken, it is episode number 915 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Oh, Canada. Always 100% Canadian and always beaverific. And I just noticed that I forgot to fill my cup with a little beaver moistener today. So I might have to go do that during one of the clips, sneak out. But maybe I won't need to because today's show is going to be juicy, kids and cubs. Can you tell I'm happy today? Little extra frisky. Got frisky beaver today. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A, and not with me as usual. Unfortunately today, super unfortunately today, is my good friend Mr. Grizzly, because oh my god, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Oh my god. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca, and Kits and Cubs, how my mental health is doing today. Canadianness activated, as it says right here. There. What am I looking for? The wrong fingers. I don't know how to point when I'm looking at myself in camera, but you see it in the corner there. So activated that I had to put on the lumberjack shirt today because I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. Canadianness is just bursting all out of me today. Ooh boy. Yes, Kit Linda, it is spring when the delicate aroma of fertilizer wafts off the fields. And fertilizer there be. Ooh, yes, of the Alberta bovine fertilizer. Fertilizer kind. Let's see. We haven't done this in a little while. Let's see who's here. Good morning through the magic monitor to Kit's Elaine, to Kit's Breens. Hello, both of you. To Kit Taffy G, to Kit Linda M, the original and the best. Did I say Kit Elaine? Of course. Yes, I did say Kit Elaine. And Kit Bifaubi. Hello, good morning. Lovely to see you. Glad you're here. And Kit Bomb. Hey, salut mon ami. Comment ça va? Oh my God. That's so wonderful. And oh yes, and there'll be more. I did this really early, so not everybody has had a chance to say hello. Kit Lane goes, I suspect that Paul could end up dropping an F-bomb or two. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. How's your mental health today? I am doing surprisingly well. There, as you know, Kates and Cubs, your Royale with cheese, Queen Beaver, crown right up there to prove it, lives for the awkward moment. And somebody serve me up a buffet. And that somebody, unless you've been sleeping under a rock, you probably know it, is Premier Kinew, probably uh, uh, much more future Prime Minister of Canada today than he was 2 days ago, based on something he just did. That was a thing of beauty. Yeah. Oh my. And I know there's a couple people here that um, uh, that are particularly fond of Mr. Canoe. A couple people here who thinks he's a bit of a snack. So we had a beauty from someone with some who believe has a really nice booty. Oh my god. Wow. Um uh, yeah, Kid Linda, Wob certainly boosted my mental health. Yeah, yeah, he gave me boost me too. Feel like a Mama Morton in Chicago. Boost me up, my ladder kid, and I'll boost you up yours. Oh my God. Wow. Yeah, Canada needs more Wobs. Yes, he won more hot. Tabby G, he won more hearts. Kid Bomb, Wob was a boss. Yes. Elaine, Canada needs more Wobs. Yes, 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 yes. Feel like Big Ryan and Harry Met Sally. Yes, yes, yes. I'll have whatever Manitoba's having. Oh my God. Yeah, mental health is fantastic today because um, someone for whom I am having, I don't have much esteem, not much affection, very little respect, um, got served just desserts with the cameras on at a moment where, of course, she was making herself the center of everything like she usually does. And in this case, actually was the center of everything because she was hosting the meeting of the Western premiers. Could say Western and Northern, actually, at this case. Um, and yeah, uh, got put in her place something fierce. Now, we all know what the moment is, but there's some stuff that happened before and immediately after it that will both amuse you, and if you thought you disliked her before, you will really, and if you think that what she just did that created that moment made you dislike her even more. What she did immediately after, which is not on that clip, will make you dislike her even more. And what you see what happened before, which led up to that moment, you will dislike her yet even more. Um, when David Eby was the first to say before going into that meeting of those Western premiers that this was going to be awkward, he wasn't lying. And while they were doing their best to make nicey nicey prior to, uh, and here's the thing, uh, uh, there was still the nicey nicey after, but oh, my little rainbow beaver heart, there was throwing shade and flipping spade. Oh, so much of it, kits and cubs, so much of it going on. So there was nice, but there was a little bit of nice nasty, if you know what I mean, going on, and a lot of it was going in Smith's direction. Now, of course, kits and cubs, as you know, Danielle Smith is nothing short of, and I believe I actually said it in the description, if I am not mistaken, a pathologically mendacious, sociopathic, malignant narcissist and political arsonist. So, of course, um, she, whatever it is that is inside such people, seemingly made her personally impervious to everything that happened, which only really made it worse. But for us, looking at it made her look worse. Um, and just gave the moment that much more resonance. Um, it's a thing of beauty, and we're going to talk about it today because with the words, "I'd like to respond," Mr. Kinew interrupted the pattern. Danielle Smith was asked a question. She did what Danielle Smith does: gaslighted, bullshitted, lied, misrepresented, presented an alternative view version of reality that just exists absolutely nowhere. And media was about to let her do that and just move on to the next question. And Mr. Kinew decided, no, 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 I'd like to respond. And with that interruption, interrupted the pattern. But in that moment, also, Mr. Kinew, not only a politician, not only a leader, but a teacher, taught us all, including journalists who I hope learned the lesson. Hope they took notes, especially political journalists, that when you are told an outright lie, don't move on to the next question. So, I'd like to, I don't believe that's true. Or even better, no, that is not true. Why would you lie? Put the question, interrupt the pattern, interrupt the flow of the interview, interrupt the next planned question to say, whoa, 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 you just outright lied right to my face, and I know you are lying. Um, yes, I have other questions, but you know what? Let's set those aside and let's unpack this for a moment. Mr. Kinew taught us that when someone brazenly lies about something, you know better, particularly from personal experience, than they do. You just don't let them move on. You stop the conversation there, and you focus on the lie. Now, Wab Kinew, very smartly, if you remember, we had a guest on a few years ago, Murray Billett, who taught us about being relentlessly tough on the problem and being gentle with the person. Um, Wab Smith was extremely hard on the lie. It's- And with class that Danielle Smith does not deserve, was gentle with her. So he interrupted the pattern. He was very firm in doing it. He was not ambiguous at all, and still had the class to not go personal against her and just let the teaching sit. It, I mean, I guess I could. I was going to say if I could stand. I mean, I can stand. Standing ovation for Premier Kinew for doing all of that on the spot. Now, maybe he had planned or thought about this beforehand if she does this, because she did telegraph that she would do what she did. in a previous press availability where Danielle Smith, and listen, again, to the point that of all people in the country, she had Andrew Coyne. Andrew Coyne uh, make a comment about what she was saying at the time being something that would never happen. So for you to blurt something out casually, like the way Danielle Smith has become famous for, and to get Andrew Coyne just come up and say, "Yeah, no, that's not." You have to have uh, messed up in an incredibly monumental way. Um, whew. So maybe we should just get into it. Um, I'll start with the moment, and then we'll go back and see what led to it, and then we'll see what happened after. Because there is, while the moment itself is extremely compelling, especially when it's taken in isolation, when you actually see it in its context, there is so much more resonance to it. Incredible amount more of resonance to it. Um, so let's go to the actual moment here. Uh, Let me see if I can bring this up for you. I thought I had it set up, but I was just so excited that I realized I hadn't set it up. So if you get the impression here that I'm stretching a little, it is indeed because I am. So it happened fairly early. It was a press conference that was being held immediately, well, I guess after their meetings. And according here to CPAC, it's 45 minutes. But we, the moment happens fairly early on, about 16 minutes and a half in to it. Um, you know, Premier Smith is asked a question by journalists, and here it is. Her response, of course, it has to do with Indigenous rights and duty to consult, because, as you know, and as we pointed out on the show, Danielle Smith wants us to believe that duty to consult applies only to things like projects, but not to any existential matter like trying to remove, uh, take the territory out from under the treaty signatories and make it not part of Canada anymore. Apparently, there is no duty to consult on what happens to treaty and to treaty rights when you want to take the land that is the subject of the treaty out from under it and go somewhere else with it. Now, I know you can actually pick up land and carry it somewhere else. You know what I mean? Carving it out of Canada or making it part of the United States, where the relationship with the crown would be different. And everybody can just turn around and say, well, you don't have to worry like this. You know, whatever relationship you have with the crown, you know, we'll have with the crown here. Or, you know, like they say, or even if they say something like, hey, we'll make the crown here too. Well, we all know that's not going to happen because one of the leaders of the uh, separatist movement, I believe it is Mr. Sylvester. um, has actually um, stated outright that he suspects that King Charles is running a multi-billion-dollar transnational criminal enterprise that is systemically stripping the Canadian state of cash, and says here, um, there's a little an article at one point uh, by Richard Warnica, who said, "I went home recently to write about Alberta separatists. What I found was a movement dangerously wildly disconnected from what is real." And I should maybe read that into the record at some point. This is a pretty good article. And it says here, it starts with, I had known Mitch Sylvester, the architect of the Alberta independence movement, for less than 5 minutes when he first implied King Charles might have him killed. It was late February. We were in a loud coffee shop near Alberta legislature, and he kept mouthing the words, the king, but he wouldn't say them out loud. I don't want to get shot, he said, then whispering them again, enunciating this time barely audible, the king. Girl, trust me when I say that you are just not that important. That anybody would consider wasting a moment considering killing you, particularly since, murder's illegal and it comes with consequences. And you're just not that worth it. But I mean, having an overinflated sense of self is kind of the mandatory price of admission these days, right? So yeah, don't have to worry, Indigenous people. When Alberta becomes independent, we'll keep your relationship. We'll maintain the crown, or we'll maintain your relationship with the crown. Yeah, bullshit. The leader of the movement thinks that the king wants him killed. I don't think he'll want the king to be the head of state of the new independent Republic of Alberta. Actually, the new independent for 0.2 seconds Republic of Alberta, after which it will be just appropriated or assumed into the United States. Because, come on, do we really believe that the United States is going to let all that oil just sit there? Under under the control of a tiny, tiny little independent state that is completely landlocked, that just made 35 million new, if not enemies, people that are rather totally and completely unsympathetic to whatever their aspirations are, and not particularly inclined to be helpful. Yeah, thank you. We'll be taking that. You won't be needing that very much anymore, right? So let's look at the moment and see what happened here when Danielle Smith was asked about her fresh, new, super creative, and inventive take. Of course, extremely limited take on what is a duty to consult.
Hi there, Julia Wong, CBC National. This is for Premier Smith. You've said it's worth taking a look at Section 35 of the Constitution, which affirms treaty rights and includes a duty to consult with Indigenous groups. I know that Manitoba Premier Kinew said that he told you he wants it to be respected. I wonder if you brought this up with your counterparts, and if so, what conversations were had?
Okay, now I want you to look at the faces. Okay, the two northern premiers here have all been looking to the side, and you can see them shifting, especially this guy here. I don't know how recent actually he is. I think Yukon had their elections last year, so still a couple months on the job. But Premier of Yukon here, and of course, look at Kinew. He knows what's coming. He got a big smile. EB, he's just calm. Scott Moe looking down. I don't want to be a part of this. All right. I'll let you go back a couple of seconds here to check out the body language here. Like this guy's like back in his chair, like, oh
treaty
God,
rights
no.
and includes a duty to consult with Indigenous groups. I know that Manitoba Premier Kinew said that he told you he wants it to be respected. I wonder if you brought this up with your counterparts, and if so, what conversations were had?
No, I mean, the way we're going to seek clarity is through the court. We think that the duty to consult is meant to be looked at through a lens of major projects, and we take that very seriously. We had an Indigenous roundtable yesterday where I shared with the premiers how we're using our Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation to help underwrite major project participation, to give revenues to Indigenous nations, and how we want to continue engaging with Indigenous nations on that. But the issue, I think, in the court is whether that duty to consult should apply to citizen-initiated petitions. And that's where I think that the court erred in judgment, and I think it's also anti-democratic, the decision that they made. But we'll make the arguments in court about what the limits to duty to consult ought to be, and we'll see how that conversation goes. There's a couple of rounds that we have to go through, obviously, to Court of Appeal, probably also to the Supreme Court of Canada. But we want to make sure that we have a very clear understanding of what the duty to consult really means and what it doesn't mean. And I think at the moment there's a lack of clarity on that.
And you've talked a lot about...
Sorry, I'd like to respond. So I think we know that is not correct, a lot of what you just said there, Premier Smith. Specifically, and we spoke about this, so I don't mind repeating this. It is not up to the petition gatherers to fulfill the duty to consult. It is up to you as the Alberta government to fulfill the duty to consult. And in this case, when there's clearly going to be an impact on well-established existing hunting and fishing rights by putting up an international border, if some would have their way, the judge ruled, and I would agree with the judge's ruling, that that is going to infringe on rights. And so there is a duty to consult. Now, to take a step further, for the Albertan who's been frustrated over the lack of progress on pipelines, you've got the Premier of BC announcing LNG, we're working on Churchill, we're working on northern trade corridors. This is a moment to get big things built in Manitoba. And I would say now is the time to work together. Why don't we hold off on this referendum talk for a year or two and see if we get these pipelines under construction? Because at the end of the day, we want Canada to succeed. We're all very proud of this place. I myself am very, very patriotic. And what I think it's important for us to say when we hear this sorts of discussion happening here in Alberta is for us to say, okay, thank you First Nations in Alberta for hitting the pause button on this. Now the rest of Canada, let's work together and show Alberta just how appreciated they are in the rest of this country.
Okay, you can see her mouth is open already. She's ready to jump in. She's ready to jump in. Can't let that stand. Can't let that stand. She's opening her mouth. But you saw her the entire time. She's looking at him. She is staring him down, and she's got her face all scrunched up. Because she doesn't like to be told no. She certainly does not like to be dressed down like that in public. Now, Bob Kinew did some really, really cool things here. You see that she just put that line of bullshit out there. It's like, well, we think the duty to... did you consult with the premiers? No, we're going to settle this in the courts. We believe that. She has an Indigenous premier right at the table and chose not to discuss that with him. He discussed it with her, though. I'm not afraid of saying it here because I told it to her in the meeting. Danielle Smith sits there and says, duty to consult again with an Indigenous premier at the table, sitting right there, 2 down from her, looks at the camera, bald face, and claims that there is some type of confusion, some lack of clarity on what is duty to consult. Indigenous people have been taking stuff like this to court for decades. There is jurisprudence on this as long as my arm. Indigenous people almost always win. She wants you to believe that there's some type of lack of clarity that still needs to be resolved on what duty to consult really means. as it applies specifically to citizen-led petitions. This is not just any type of citizen-led petition. And number two, it's not a citizen. The question that she just put on the ballot is not citizen-led, nor the result of a citizen-led petition. Because again, that we know of, she has 0 verified, authenticated signatures in favor of a referendum. She keeps saying she has them and that they're real, talks about them like they're verified, but they are not, as we very clearly showed, and we've been saying from the get-go and supported by the views of Professor Jared Wesley, which we read into the record yesterday on our show. Imagine the unmitigated gall it takes to sit at a table with cameras rolling, with microphones in your face, with a premier, an equal, a peer who is Indigenous, who knows this law about duty to consult like the back of his hand. Because if we understand the principle, what we call the JIPA principle, the greater involvement of the people most affected, who is most affected by any debate or negotiation or attempt to try to whittle down treaty rights? Indigenous people, particularly Indigenous leaders. So she sits there and purports to white-splain duty to consult with an Indigenous premier right there, who is her equal in terms of stature within this country. And while he is there, lie, gaslight. And the press was going to let her do it. Just let her ask the question, let her speak, and move on to the next one. It's the journalist's job to intervene and say, I'm sorry, that's not true. And to challenge her on that. That's the journalist's job. Premier Kinew should not have had to do that in that moment. That's the journalist's job. Otherwise, you're just a stenographer. Danielle Smith said, Bob Kinew said, Danielle Smith said, it's your job to tell us not only what Danielle Smith said, but whether what Danielle Smith said is true or whether it is Alberta Special Brand Grade A bovine fecal matter. But the journalist did not do that job. So Bob Kinew had to intervene. I'd like to respond. That is not true. Explained clearly what the duty to with whom the duty to consult resides. In this case, who's representing the Crown. In this case, the government of Alberta via the body Elections Alberta, which is responsible and has been deemed responsible by the government of Alberta to ensure that the petition collection signature collection process was indeed done legally, ethically, according to the rules. The courts told them that the question, as asked, would violate. Danielle Smith decided to ignore that by retroactively changing the law and saying courts don't need to do that anymore. Which, fine, if she wants that for Alberta, that's the case, but that just guarantees that something goes to the Supreme Court. Well, that test will be applied. We cannot possibly, it would be unconscionable to kick this down the road by removing the law in Alberta that says, well, our referendum questions don't need to be constitutional anymore. It kicks the can down the road, of course, because all that does is guarantees that it eventually gets up to the Supreme Court, where the question will be deemed unconstitutional. It'll just take longer to get there. Which is probably what she wants, because it gives them more time to, to sow the wind. to gaslight. But then he continues in the answer and points to Premier Eby and all the projects that he's got going on, and the other premiers, and seems to intimate here, throwing shade. The rest of us are able to get big things done without having to launch a referendum, put a knife at the neck of the country, gaslight, lie, manipulate, gamble the future of the country, retroactively change laws, defy court orders. The rest of us are able to do that. Why can't you? You're a liar. I know you're a liar. This is how you're a liar. I'm calling you out. And by the way, why the hell are you lying? Why can't you just do the same thing all of us are doing in the way that we are doing it? Why can't you get it done without all of this? Ouch. Ouch. Unbelievable. Creator, grant me the confidence of a UCP politician who can sit in front of a mic and explain in front of an Indigenous person who has lived this reality all of their life what duty to consult means. Oh, grant me that confidence. When I say she is poison made flesh, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This behavior that has always been there, that she signaled from the get-go when she either took or placed that call to Artur Paslavsky, who had a criminal case in front of the courts, and her suggesting that maybe she could talk to the Crown so she knows it exists. All the things that people were accusing Justin Trudeau of having done with SNC-Lavalin, she was actually doing. Interfering in a criminal case on behalf of the alleged criminal. Amazing how conservatives have no problem when it's one of their own who do it. She told us who she was. She's always been telling us who she was, but she told us who she was and that she was unfit as premier in that particular moment. She believed she had the power to pardon. This is who she is. She is so craven, so brazen, so shameless, so convinced of her own importance that she will explain to Indigenous people with cameras on what duty to consult really is. Wow. Wow. Kinew was firm. He wasn't having any of it. He was clear and remained above the fray by saying, hey, and actually telling us Canadians what she should have been saying. Hey, let's this is okay. I hear you, but let's, we're in a situation where things seem to be turning around, and besides, the courts indicated, that we kind of screwed up, and well, we also kind of lost control of the electors list. So, we can't really verify your signatures. So maybe right now would be a good time to take a just put a cork in that for year two and let's see how this plays out. Danielle Smith appears to love waiting to see how things play out. Let's see how this appeal plays out. No, we don't need to discuss this. We'll take that all the way down to the Supreme Court. It'll take a couple of rounds. Let's see how that plays out first. We think that we will be proven right. That could take 5, 6, 7 years. That's a lot of time to lie and gaslight and foment division and hatred. Right? And there seems to be a particular obsession at the moment with vilifying Indigenous people. They're coming to steal your land. And boy, I saw a lot of tweets there yesterday with a lot of stuff said about Indigenous people that a lot of people might want to delete from their accounts because that could cause someone who would report them to have maybe someone come and knock on your door. And not for a wellness check. And then said, let's work on these projects and take 2 years so we can show how Albertans how valued they actually are. Kept it classy. But stuff came before that. So why not take a little look at what came before? Now, Danielle Smith, of course, as the chair of this, has her whole opening statement, which, of course, is, she's talking about all the stuff that they are working on. And again, somebody had been pointing across. I'm going to just do this one without any sound because we don't need it here. But again, look around the table, and one guy, again, seems to be the guy that's smiling because he appears to know what's coming. Scott Moe is looks like a bit like a deer in the headlights. David Eby is, oh God, she's just droned on. And Wabkadu got this big smile on his face. Because he knows what's coming. He knows what's coming. So yes, it starts with the requisite, sort of recap of what the meeting is, uh, you know, and she ends it with, "There are many points of agreement among us, and we are firmly aligned on the need to continue to build a stronger, more competitive, and secure Canada by fully realizing the strengths of the Western provinces and territories. I'm proud to be an advocate for the West's success, and I'm excited about how much we'll accomplish together for this nation that we love and the people that we serve. Thank you, and now we'd be happy to take questions." So she did the performative stuff, again pretending that she's one of us. She's not. She's not one of us. She's really not one of us. And let's take a look at what came before, because the absolute very first question about this that comes out of this meeting is about the whole shebang that's going on.
Thank you. We'll now enter the media Q&A portion. We'll be taking one question, one follow-up. A reminder to media to state your name and outlet before asking your question and direct it to the according premiers as well. We'll start off with questions here in the room, and then before trying to make our way onto the Zoom call for some questions there too. We'll go ahead to our first at the mic.
Hi there, Janet French with CBC Edmonton. My question is for Premier Kinew. So I understand that you met with chiefs yesterday,
Premier Kinew, who met with chiefs.
some Alberta First Nation chiefs, to hear their concerns about separation referendum question and other matters. And I'm wondering why did you want that meeting, and tell us what happened in the meeting.
Thank you. And first of all, I want to thank Premier Smith and her team for doing a wonderful job in hosting us here in Kananaskis. And thanks to all the folks who work here at this beautiful hotel. So I come bearing an important message from the First Nations of Canada on the question of Alberta separation. I've heard loud and clear that Indigenous people from coast to coast to coast are prepared to use every treaty right at our disposal to ensure that Canada does not lose Connor McDavid. We wanted to spend some time with some of the leadership, and of course I want to acknowledge the leaders who are participating in the roundtable here as well, as a gesture of goodwill. This is how I was raised, to pay respects when we come to a territory. And so I would describe yesterday's meeting as a cultural gathering, a cultural visit. And I was very moved. They actually gave me a Blackfoot name during the opening ceremony that we had, and we had a very, very good discussion. There was a lot of issues being raised, of course, but there was also a lot of cultural moments. It was very, very moving to hear Cree and Blackfoot and Nakota spoken in the meeting. And of course, I nodded along, pretending that I understood what was being said in these other languages. But I had the opportunity to share with Premier Smith yesterday some of the concerns around Section 35 and the need for it to be respected. So there was some of that bringing forward a message, definitely, and I want to share that with the room here. But I also had a message for the chiefs, which is, I'm a patriot. I love this country. And I just wanted to say thanks as a fellow Canadian for the leadership in the room who had stopped the referendum question from moving them forward. And I thought that was important to say as a representative of Manitoba. And so we had a really good visit, and then we came here and we had a really good meeting with our fellow premiers. And so I think the other thing that I wanted to share is after the meeting and when we were leaving Calgary, we stopped at A&W, and there was an older woman who was working there, and she stopped me as she was handing me the brown paper bag, and she goes, "Wap, tell our premier we don't want to separate from Canada." So I'm passing that message on to you, Danielle, and saying on behalf of the rest of Canada, we're with that lady from A&W.
I actually meant to ask you to answer that in French as well, so I apologize.
Okay.
If you wouldn't mind.
All right, so here I'm going to normally I skip over the French and just go ahead, but Premier Kinew says a couple of things different in French, so I will do the simultaneous interpretation on this one.
Even the bad jokes, the lame jokes.
You better mention Connor McDavid in français as well.
Yeah. Ben, je suis très, très fier des actions des chefs ici en Alberta.
I'm very proud of the actions taken by the chiefs here in Alberta,
Qui ont agi pour promouvoir le Canada.
who have acted to promote Canada.
Hier, c'était surtout une rencontre culturelle. Ils ont même donné un nom autochtone.
And yesterday was primarily a cultural meeting. They even gave me an indigenous name, as you mentioned earlier, a Blackfoot name.
Pendant cette réunion. Alors, je suis très honoré d'avoir cette chance d'engager au niveau culturel.
So I was very honored to have this chance to engage at the cultural level.
Avant ce qu'on a engagé au niveau des politiques. Et puis oui, j'ai partagé des messages avec le Premier ministre de l'Alberta.
As well as on a political level, and yes, I delivered some messages to the Prime Minister of Alberta.
Au sujet des questions des droits autochtones. Mais en même temps, il y avait beaucoup d'engagement ici sur
with regard to Indigenous rights, but at the same time, there was a lot of engagement here
les enjeux qui nous intéressent en tant que le Premier ministre de l'Ouest du Canada. Et
with issues that interest us as in terms of us being premiers in Western Canada.
puis c'est dans cette façon que je voudrais appuyer un Canada uni.
And it is in that vein that I would like to support a united Canada.
And just could you, as a follow-up in English and French, could you be a bit more specific about your concerns about Premier Smith's mentioning of having a look at Section 35.1? Thanks.
Well, I think I answered your two questions the way that I wanted to. Thank you so much.
Go ahead to our next.
Okay, so there you go. Premier, again, showing that he can be firm and clear either way. Now, just to give you a little thing, what is stemming from this here is that during one of her press conferences following her videotaped address, Danielle Smith made a comment that because she wants everybody else to stay in their lane and she's not able to stay in hers. The next section of the Canadian Constitution that it seems she's coming for is Section 35. She's trying to open the door to amend the Canadian Constitution to alter treaty rights, which is, again, ridiculous if you understand that treaty rights are rights with the Crown that we've enshrined in our Constitution. We've enshrined them in such a way that they are impervious to abuse of the notwithstanding clause. Treaties signed before there was even such thing as an Alberta or a government of Alberta. Danielle Smith is trying to make the case. No sooner did she set fire to the entire country with a referendum question. And a referendum question that is set in the context of 9 other questions that she's also claimed are citizen-led. But they're not citizen-led. They are 9 questions that she wanted to ask, and then she made those weird propaganda videos, and they had that weird Alberta Next panel where they only wanted to hear from people who agreed with her type thing, and then put them on. So none of these questions are citizen-led. Right? It says, well, we need to know what duty to consult is specifically when it comes to citizen-led initiatives. We don't think it applies to those. It applies to everything that could affect treaty rights. Everything. It's not complicated. So she bullied up to a mic and then started going after the next piece of the Constitution that she would like to unilaterally rewrite. She's a political arsonist. She does not govern, she ungoverns. Her goal is to dismantle every single institution, as David Climate-Haga said, so that Canada becomes a country of pretty much independent provinces where the federal government does nothing but defense and maybe diplomacy and foreign relations. But that's it. This is from Rahim Mohammed of unfortunately, the National Pest. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith says she's open to having a conversation with her fellow premiers about rewriting parts of the Constitution relating to Indigenous treaty rights. Well, you know what? The rest of your premiers are not open to having that conversation with you. Maybe Scott Moe. But other than that, no. Smith told reporters on Friday that Section 35 of the Constitution, which governs Crown-Indigenous relations, has been stretched beyond recognition by the courts. It's not your place to say, boo-boo kitty. You see, Section 35 is not about you. And it wasn't put there to make your life easier. Section 35 was put there to recognize, to enshrine in our Constitution, the preceding to our Constitution relationship between the Crown and Indigenous peoples. She said that an Alberta judge's decision earlier this month to throw out a petition for a binding referendum, there's no such thing as a binding referendum under the Westminster parliamentary system, on the grounds that the province failed to meet its duty to consult with First Nations was a prime example of this overreach. No, it was you being told no. You're not being persecuted. You were told no. Quote, I don't even know what the court would expect of a citizen-initiated petition to satisfy a bar to duty to consult before they can even ask a question, said Smith. Yes, you do. Yes, you actually do, because you're working very hard to not do those things. You don't work that hard to avoid doing something if you have no idea what that thing would be. You know what that thing would be, and you've decided it would be too hard or too unpleasant or too whatever, and you don't want to do it, so you've decided to take another option. But don't claim you don't know. You know. Smith has vowed to appeal the ruling and is inviting her fellow premiers to help prevent similar decisions in the future. Quote, it needs to be challenged. We're going to, and if there's an appetite among the other premiers to talk about defining that even further through some kind of constitutional amendment, I'm open to having that conversation. Yes, I'm open to have that conversation about how we're going to limit Section 35 with a whole bunch of other premiers who usually are exclusively white, but this one we just happen to have time. We just happen to have one who wants to thwart me. So let's see if I can just organize a little 12 against 1. Let's have a conversation. Danielle Smith never wants to just have a conversation. She's established that. Smith was taking questions from the media in Calgary after announcing Thursday evening that she'll be adding an independence-related question to the fall referendum ballot. She noticed that Alberta isn't the only province grappling with the overly broad judicial interpretation of treaty rights. Quote, my reading as a non-lawyer and as someone that has clear and utter disdain for Indigenous people is, that was the silent part. Sorry, the silent the silent letter in there was very long to say. My reading of Section 35 is that it was never intended to continue being open-ended and redefined by the courts to create new and increasing rights over and over again with each new decision, said Smith. Yes, because Smith, once again, ever the Canadian Federalist, adopts an American originalist approach to the Canadian Constitution. Says, my reading is based on my scholarly knowledge and extensive knowledge of Indigenous history, because I am part Cherokee or whatever it is that she claimed to be at one point. My reading is that back then, Indigenous people never intended for this to be a living document, because she would know. It was never intended to undermine property rights. It's not. Or to undermine the ability of provinces to have control over their resources. It's not. It's not. It's not there to undermine. It's there to create, they're as guideposts. They're indicating to you the path you must follow if you want to get what you want. And the only reason to start on that path while not following it is because you know from the get-go, you are aware from the get-go that what it is you want to do cannot be done or will not be done if you follow the path, because there's no license for what you want to do. There's no agreement. So when you know going into a process that the process is not going to lead you where you want because there's so much objection to you and what you want, then what do? Well, you blow up the process. You pretend it's not legitimate. You pretend it was never intended to undermine. Yes, because you know what their intent was back then. If you knew what their intent was back then, you wouldn't be making this really dumbass argument about duty to consult now. The very fact that you are making the argument that there are limits to duty to consult on things that directly affect Indigenous people is an indication that you have no idea what it was ever intended to do, even less what it was never intended to do. Her comments follow a series of controversial treaty-related decisions in British Columbia that critics say have created uncertainty surrounding the property rights of private landowners and the viability of major resource projects. Multiple candidates in the ongoing BC Conservative leadership race have said they'll amend the Constitution to scale back Aboriginal title and inferred Indigenous veto powers over resource development. Unlike BC, Alberta is located entirely on unnumbered treaty land. The Supreme Court announced this week that it will hear an appeal to the controversial BC decision, finding that the province's mining rules are inconsistent with Indigenous rights. Smith said she'll raise the issue of Indigenous treaty rights at a Premier's meeting set for next week, which is this meeting here. She'll be putting 4 constitutional questions to Albertans in October's provincial referendum, including questions on amending the Constitution to give provinces more powers over judicial appointments and to abolish the Senate, something that she cannot do. She cannot do. The judicial appointments are federal. It is written out in the Constitution. The provinces are allowed, and the structure has been created so that provinces can feed their input into the process. Not that the federal government is obligated in any way, legally or constitutionally, to take it or to even create such a process, but they have. So they have been given all the power that they can be given and input under the current Constitution, but that's not enough for her. She's not going to get that. That's just a thing to get people mad in opposition to Ottawa to come out and vote for her referendum. The people in the middle, who think that, I don't think Canada should, I don't think Alberta should leave Canada, but man, am I pissed off at Ottawa after being told every second of my life from the time I was in the womb that Ottawa is evil and is trying to hold us down. Yeah, I would like to send Ottawa a message. Yeah, I want more power over judicial appointments. And while I'm here, well, yeah, let's vote for that separation thing because, I mean, it's not actually going to lead to separation right now. So there's nothing to lose. There's no cost, which is what the Prime Minister was talking about. Yeah, there actually is a cost. You think there's no cost. That's sold to you as in there's no cost. But there is a cost. There's a high cost. And it can be a very, very dangerous and potentially expensive. And I'm not just talking financially when I'm talking about costs. But a very dangerous and expensive bluff. Or costly bluff. And of course, to abolish the Senate, Stephen Harper just spent a decade trying to abolish or reform a Senate. Raised millions, fleeced, you choose the word, off Canadians on the promise that he could get it done when a first-year constitutional law student could have told you there's no way for a province to unilaterally abolish or eliminate the Senate. There's even no way for the federal government to unilaterally do it. But they raised a hell of a lot of money on it, though. Just like Danielle Smith is planning to raise a lot of money off, those mean Indigenous people who keep oppressing us. Yes, the Indigenous people are so weak, if we listen to the comments, that they're this and that and all the other things and can't manage to live their lives at all if it weren't for all the handouts. My, what a shame it is that we keep on giving them all this money and we get nothing back for it. You're not supposed to get anything back from it, Aaron Gunn. The money is not for you and about you. You are not entitled to get anything back from money that rightfully goes to Indigenous people, a lot of it based on what it is we did to them. That we now know was not okay. That we probably knew then was not okay either, but we did it anyway. Because who was going to stop us? Come on. Come on. Let's get serious here. All right. So that was the first question. Went right to Wab Kinew. Right again. You met the Chiefs. All right. Let's see what happened next that led up to the moment. So first question is about this. Wab Kinew, putting some stuff on the table there. Right? With regard to respect, saying, hey, this thing should be put off for a couple of years. Because, we support you getting your project built, but get it done the same way that we all have to do it, according to the rules. What happened next?
The mic.
Hi, Caroline Bargoot with CBC National News. This question is for Premier Eby. A number of media outlets, including Bloomberg, are reporting that Canada has made a deal with a German company to buy LNG from Silesums. Can you talk a little bit about that and tell us where the project is at?
Okay, so this one, although it is interesting, I'm going to skip over this one because it's important information, and I will deal with it another point in the show. But this one, has to do with a deal. Actually, you know what? Actually, no, because I remember. I'm going to play this now. Sorry, I'm changing my mind because in this answer, David Eby does build on what Premier Kinew just did. Oh God, I'm so sorry, kits and cubs. I have the thing happened again where the the feed started and was showed that it had linked, but then disconnected itself. So I will show it again for you. So sorry, kits and cubs. Uh, I hate that Restream keeps doing this to us. It makes the shows take way longer than they need to be. So here it is. I believe I put it back at the same spot. And all right, I'll go back to the beginning of the question here. I'm so sorry, kids and cubs. You know, you know that this thing with Restream ever since they switched the way that we present clips to make it a 7 or 6 step process rather than just a 2 step process. Keeps on getting us screwed. But here we go. Okay, let's hope that this time it hurts.
Go ahead, turn next to the mic.
Hi, Caroline Bargout with CBC National News. This question is for Premier Eby. A number of media outlets, including Bloomberg, are reporting that Canada has made a deal with a German company to buy LNG from Siliciums. Can you talk a little bit about that and tell us where the project is at?
Sure. Let me begin by thanking our host here in Alberta. We had a great meeting, and this is a beautiful part of the world. I've never been to Kananaskis before, and I got my first pair of cowboy boots, so it's been a memorable visit. So thank you, Premier Smith, and thank you to your team and to everyone who hosted us here. One of the things we're really proud of in British Columbia is our ability to get big things done, and the role that we see for ourselves in the future of Canada and the kind of economy that we're trying to build for Canadians from coast to coast to coast, one where Canada can stand on our own 2 feet, one where we're diversifying our trade flows, and we see a key role for ourselves in that, and we're delivering. We have about $88 billion in projects that are moving towards final investment decision, including the largest private sector investment in Canadian history, LNG Canada Phase 2. This has been the work of years. And Siliciums LNG is a project of the Nisga'a Nation, proud treaty nation, modern treaty nation in British Columbia. They've done incredible work. We've been supportive from the very beginning of their initiative. And I am so glad to see the federal government joining us to take the foundation that has been built in British Columbia, the work of our government, the work of First Nations, working in partnership, the work of communities, and take it to the next level. I feel like British Columbia is throwing the ball up, and it's given the federal government a chance to take that alley-oop and dunk it. And this announcement that the federal government will be sharing more about is about how we can work together to deepen those trading relationships around the world. In this case, with Germany. And it really reflects what is possible when we work together, and the role that British Columbia is going to play in building this economy. So we look forward to celebrating the formal announcement of this with the Nisga'a, with the federal government. It's an example of the work we're doing together, and we're super proud of it.
My follow-up is, where is Siliciums at? Has construction begun on that project?
Well, they have all of their permits from the provincial government, and they're ready to go. They are working towards what's called final investment decision, which is the go, no-go decision on construction. Part of the work to get to final investment decision is securing offtake agreements, that's commitments to buy the LNG from the facility. So a major announcement with a European partner of purchasing LNG gets us that much closer to final investment decision of this more than $10 billion investment in British Columbia and Canada.
Okay, so Premier Eby, sticking to it again, but again, you can see that there's these little turns of phrases in there that are thrown in that are just like tiny little jabs to Danielle Smith. A little bit of shade there about ability to get it done. a little more on that. The Xylisms project is one of the major projects that had been referred to the major projects office. And what David Eby was talking about was getting people, to commit to buying what would come out of it. And that deal that they're talking about, according to Bloomberg News's Brian Platt, is it says here that Canada set to announce a deal to supply Germany with liquefied natural gas from a planned export facility on the coast of British Columbia, according to people familiar with the matter. The gas will be shipped from the Xylisms project, a $10 billion floating export facility that has already received regulatory approval, at least in British Columbia, said the people, speaking on condition they not be identified because the matter is still private. The buyer is Germany's SEFE, the former Gazprom PGSC unit nationalized by the German government after the invasion of Ukraine. The deal is expected to be announced Wednesday by Tim Hodgson, Canada's Minister of Energy and Natural Resources. Xylisms LNG is backed by Blackstone Incorporated funded Western LNG, as well as Rockies LNG Partners and the Niska Nation, an indigenous group that owns the development land. The project has not yet reached a final investment decision to start construction. The investor group is planning a facility capable of producing 12 million metric tons a year of LNG, making it nearly as large as the first phase of LNG Canada, a Shell PLC-backed project that went into operation last year. Officials with SEFE, Western LNG, and the Canadian government declined to comment. Representatives for Rockies LNG Partners and the Niska Nation didn't immediately respond to requests for comment. Hodgson, speaking in a recent interview with Bloomberg News, said European nations are actively looking for a reliable supply of gas to replace flows from Russia and the Middle East, which have been disrupted by war. European countries don't want to become overly reliant on American gas, Hodgson said, partly because of trade tensions with the Trump administration, but also because they want the security of having a range of suppliers. Quote, "We can be that alternative," Hodgson said. "We can be that reliable supplier who will not use energy for coercion. That could eventually take the form of LNG being shipped via Canada's east coast or through Hudson Bay in the north, but in the near term, we have huge increases in supply coming off the west coast, which are music to their ears." Asked whether West Coast LNG would be shipped to Europe through the Panama Canal, Hodgson said there are multiple options. Some ships will go through Panama, some will go around, some they'll just trade in return for LNG shipments available elsewhere, he said. Ultimately, it makes sense for Canada and Europe to become closer energy partners at a time when global superpowers are looking to use trade as a tool of geopolitical coercion, Hodgson said. Quote, "They're looking around and saying, how do we create energy security?" he said. "Where can we find a supplier who shares our values?" And they look around and they don't see a lot of choices. And even though there's not a lot of choices, again, we are just sitting there with our legs freshly shaven at the big international singles bar where everybody's gone a courting and asking, "How do you like us now?" Again, as I keep on saying, we got our hair done. Check our nails. Germany, how you doing? Doing good as hell. uh, yes, we have suitors. And of course, as you mentioned, as the article mentioned, of course, that project had been nationalized. So we are dealing directly with the government. And, European government leaders, for the most part, seem to be very, very fond of us lately. How convenient. Moving on. The next part of this wonderful press conference here. All right. Putting that all up. Okay. I'm doing it. See, so I chose it. It's not on the screen yet. Now I have to go to click it again a second time. And it's still not on the screen yet. So I have to go in and click it a third time. And now it's on the screen. It's a really frustrating process. And then I have to switch and then go to the screen where it actually shows and press play. And hopefully that when I press play, it doesn't disconnect.
Thank you. We'll go to our next up mic.
Very good. Well, thank you for taking my question. Another BC reporter, Ben O'Hara-Byrne. To David Eby, yesterday you said you'd come here looking for clarity about what exactly your counterpart, Danielle Smith, was up to with her question on separation. How satisfied are you with the answers, and what did you hear?
Okay, notice that none of the questions have gone to Danielle Smith yet, because in journalism, as we say, right, if it bleeds, it leads. So everybody's going to everybody that Danielle Smith has attempted to make bleed first for their opinions and their takes, and she's just got to sit there and take it. So now this one is directly right. You came here to see what, girl, what the hell? And well, let's see what David Eby claims to have learned about what Danielle Smith is actually up to.
Thanks for the question. I think the dominant question I was hearing in British Columbia is, why is Alberta doing this? Why are they putting a referendum question forward about the future of the country? It's a question I brought here to Premier Smith to engage with her on this important question about the future of our country. I've expressed my concerns about it. I am really pleased that we were able to agree on language in this communique, all premiers, myself, Premier Smith, everybody across the table, that a unified Canada is what enables all of the work that we want to do together to build a strong economy, to build the kind of country that we want. In the absence of a unified Canada, we'll be poorer, we will not be as successful, we will give comfort to people who want to break up our country, and sell it for parts. And so that very clear language at the beginning of the communique is a reassurance to me. I remain incredibly anxious, frankly, about this. I've seen the Brexit referendum that was just supposed to be a chance for people to express the clarity that they wanted to stay part of the EU, and it did not end up that way. I've communicated those anxieties to Premier Smith. She understands them. And my hope is that we can all come together and, as a unified country, address those concerns, because we can't address shared concerns together. Just like a family, we can work it out together, and we'll be stronger for it. And that's where I hope we end up.
And to you, Premier.
Okay. Doesn't seem to have learned much about what Danielle Smith is up to there, right? And you will notice in that response, if you were watching body language, that Rob Kinew is still happy and smiling, because all of this is before he did what he did. So he still knows what's coming. And you will see in that, in any part of David Eby's response where he was saying something critical of her, she was looking down, taking notes, clicking on something. But the stuff where, we all agreed on the stuff that, then she had her head up and was looking, So, it's like when it's like telling someone, going to Danielle Smith and saying, wow, what you said was pretty stupid. And Danielle Smith responded, well, thank you for saying I'm pretty. She just edits out the parts that are inconvenient. Starts talking about, the Brexit stuff and, how that didn't work out. No, she starts looking down there. Disengages. Oh, this is not about me. Indeed. Danielle Smith is pissed. She's right pissed. Her body language during each question gets more agitated. Yep, she made a little face at the break it up for parts. Yep. Indeed. Indeed. Just so you're noticing it, right? Those little turns of phrase, those little sentences, little jabs, all the knives. It all seems like nice and polite on the surface, doesn't it? But there's a lot going on there, isn't it? That's all so you had all of that going on. Her being hip checked and hip checked and hip checked and body checked diplomatically, but stuffed into the boards many times. And she still, when that answer came up, when that question came to her, she still had the unmitigated gall to white-splain duty to consult to us with an Indigenous leader at the table who is her peer. Wow. It is impressively awesome by just how depraved and shameless it is. I don't know if you agree with me. Because, but knowing what has come before, knowing what she did, isn't it all that much more worse? Kid Linda, what did she expect? Did she seriously think they were just going to sit there and be polite while she was attacking every one of them and every one of us? Yeah. And clearly she feels entitled to it. She feels entitled to people just sitting there and taking it. Just lie back and take it. Yeah, who else do we hear that type of attitude from? Oh, yeah, Trump. Just like Trump, she is. Just like Trump. I'm going to climb all over you. You just lay back and take it and don't say a word. She's just like him. Wow. So, let's see what happens next. Because now we're getting close to that moment. I think this is the moment. Is it the moment? This is the moment. I think she's asked one question first before, and then she launches into it. So let's go back there. And yes, okay. The screen is up. Nope, that's not the right one. This is the one.
Smith, what did you hear from your counterparts at this table about those same concerns? This reads like a manifesto of why there shouldn't be a referendum.
Well, as I told you yesterday, in British Columbia, Alberta, and Saskatchewan, we have citizen-initiated referenda. British Columbia themselves had one when 700,000 people signed a petition on the HST, and that went to a vote, and it probably didn't go the way the government of the time thought it would go either. And so we're very conscious of the fact that 700,000 citizens signed one of two petitions wanting to have this question, and it's my job to ensure that they have hope in Canada again, that we have to address the legitimate grievances that have come from 10 years of economic attack on our province. And I'm grateful that the Prime Minister is working with us to address those legitimate grievances. And so that's what I'm going to be working on over the next 5 months, is to convince those Albertans who have lost hope that there's reason to have hope again. And I hope it's forums like this that allow for Albertans to see just how strong we are as a Western Canadian group of provinces and territories. It is, when you think about the incredible opportunity that we have, that we're already the population size and economic strength of Ontario, and we're just getting started on opening up markets into Asia. It seems to me that when you look at what we've agreed to in this communique, there is an incredible amount of optimism and hope that we'll be able to work together to develop those corridors. So I think that was what we spent most of our time talking about over the last couple of days.
Thanks, Ben. We'll go to our next one at the mic.
Okay. You will notice here that Danielle Smith didn't even make an attempt to answer the question. Right? The first one was David Eby. You were here to see what she was up to. Did you get that? He didn't seem to get much. And then the question to her, and you, Premier, what did you hear from your counterparts at the table about those same concerns? She didn't talk about the damn thing that they raised about the concerns. Right? This reads like a manifesto of why there shouldn't be a referendum. Well, as I told you yesterday, in British Columbia, Alberta, and Saskatchewan, we have citizen-initiated referenda, and British Columbia themselves had one that didn't go the right way once. You're telling us things that have happened. You didn't tell us what you learned about their positions. It's just, again, incredible. There was a comment I saw from Kit Northern Ontario a little earlier. By the way, that's a handle I don't recognize. So if you are relatively new, then please welcome. I'm glad you're here. Thank you so much. And thank you for contributing already to the chat. Let's see here. I'm looking for your comment because it had disappeared from the feed, which I do the show, but I also have the YouTube feed running alongside, and the comments go back a little longer there. And I'm trying to find it because I thought it was particularly bang on. So I'm going to see here if I can find it very quickly, because it does deserve to be read in. Oh, come on, please. Come soon. Northern Ontario, where are you? There we go. I'm surprised I haven't been concussed by all the face palming I've done due to hearing Smith speak. I love it. Kit Tabby G. It's embarrassing as a Canadian to see the misinformation being spread about Indigenous peoples of our country. We really need to rally. Indeed. Indeed. What else do we have here? Tavi G. Conservatives have been bashing Indigenous people across the country. Indeed. Kit AK D329. I believe that's Kit Andrea. Nice to see you back again today. Anyone think that Smith brought up the referendum question to distract us from the illegal distribution of the voter list, 2 years U.S. interference? I'm not sure what WRT is. Sorry about that. Ambass. Oh, yes. And oh, yes, 2-year interference about it with Ambassador Pete's links to the 10 times app used by Centurion. Probably. Probably not just that. That's part of it. I think that's more the reason why Ambassador Doucheface removed himself from the allegedly Canada, allegedly strong, and allegedly free conference. But I think that Danielle has a bigger fish to fry. I mean, that referendum question is it's to save her job. She's again mendacious, pathologically mendacious, malignant narcissist. It's always about her, right? I mean, she's on the record as stating that if the referendum goes the wrong way and people vote to have an actual referendum on separating, that she's still entitled to be premier and to be the one that ushers that process in. Because again, the way that she's framing it, she's merely a facilitator of a conversation that the Albertans want to have with their government. She's not a premier who has full power and control pretty much, and who has made a decision to gamble the future of the entire nation and set things on fire. She doesn't recognize that she's done that. Now, she knows she's done that, of course, because she's working so hard to make the case that she isn't. Again, you only need to work this hard to make the case that you are not doing what it is everybody sees you doing if you are not aware you're doing it and that it's wrong. She knows. She knows. It's like Donald Trump with Russia. The guy's completely undisciplined on every single other thing except for his ability to not condemn Putin. It's the one thing he's been able to do steadfastly for the better part of 10 years. That takes a ridiculous amount of discipline from someone who's allegedly doesn't have any. So do we really believe that Donald Trump doesn't have discipline? Or that this character that he's playing that seems to be all over the place and all this stuff, it actually is a concerted strategy? That he's not as dumb as he's okay with looking if it gets the job done, if it keeps him in power, if it keeps people lending money to him, keeps him in the lifestyle that he's grown accustomed to, if it keeps maintains his very fragile image of himself, which if somebody literally ever put it right to his face so hard that he could not deny it, he would probably die of an aneurysm on the spot because he wouldn't be able to cope. Same fundamental behaviors between both of them. Wow. Geez. Something. This is something. All right. So this brings us ever closer to the moment where Mr. Kinew decided, 15 minutes of this is enough. Let's just correct the record firmly.
And that went to a vote, and it probably didn't go the way the.
So sorry, I was looking back there to make sure that I got her statements correctly when I was coming back to you after she spoke. But there we go. This is the next question. The question, of course, the moment. So we will play it again. Not because, not, we will play it again, not at all, because it is completely and utterly and totally satisfying. I love it when I get to cackle.
Hi there, Julia Wong, CBC National. This is for Premier Smith. You've said it's worth taking a look at Section 35 of the Constitution, which affirms treaty rights and includes a duty to consult with Indigenous groups. I know that Manitoba Premier Kinew said that he told you he wants it to be respected. I wonder if you brought this up with your counterparts, and if so, what conversations were had?
No, I mean, the way we're going to seek clarity is through the court. We think that the duty to consult is meant to be looked at through a lens of major projects, and we take that very seriously. We had an Indigenous roundtable yesterday where I shared with the premiers how we're using our Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation to help underwrite major project participation, to give revenues to Indigenous nations, and how we want to continue engaging with Indigenous nations on that. But the issue, I think, in the court is whether that duty to consult should apply to citizen-initiated petitions. And that's where I think that the court erred in judgment, and I think it's also anti-democratic, the decision that they made. But we'll make the arguments in court about what the limits to duty to consult ought to be, and we'll see how that conversation goes. There's a couple of rounds that we have to go through, obviously, to Court of Appeal, probably also to the Supreme Court of Canada. But we want to make sure that we have a very clear understanding of what the duty to consult really means and what it doesn't mean. And I think at the moment there's a lack of clarity on that.
And you've talked a lot about
Okay, now just a little interruption. I'm gonna let Rob Kinew work his magic again, and then I'm just gonna keep it going, because watch what Danielle Smith does immediately after she doesn't even allow a breath to occur.
Sorry, I'd like to respond. So I think we know that is not correct, a lot of what you just said there, Premier Smith. Specifically, and we spoke about this, so I don't mind repeating this. It is not up to the petition gatherers to fulfill the duty to consult. It is up to you as the Alberta government to fulfill the duty to consult. And in this case, when there's clearly going to be an impact on well-established existing hunting and fishing rights by putting up an international border, if some would have their way, the judge ruled, and I would agree with the judge's ruling, that is going to infringe on rights. And so there is a duty to consult. Now, to take a step further, for the Albertan who's been frustrated over the lack of progress on pipelines, you've got the Premier of BC announcing LNG, we're working on Churchill, we're working on northern trade corridors. This is a moment to get big things built in Manitoba. And I would say now is the time to work together. Why don't we hold off on this referendum talk for a year or two and see if we get these pipelines under construction? Because at the end of the day, we want Canada to succeed. We're all very proud of this place. I myself am very, very patriotic. And what I think it's important for us to say when we hear this sorts of discussion happening here in Alberta is for us to say, okay, thank you First Nations in Alberta for hitting the pause button on this. Now the rest of Canada, let's work together and show Alberta just how appreciated they are in the rest of this country. Ben, c'est pas nécessairement un désaccord, c'est juste un fait. Que la section 35, c'est un fait que le gouvernement dans le Canada doit le respecter.
So it's just a fact that Section 35, it needs to be respected.
C'est le même que le reste de la Constitution. Alors pour moi, oui, j'ai partagé des mots avec le Premier ministre.
It's like the rest of the Constitution. So yes, I've shared words with the Premier of Alberta.
Mr. Smith de l'Alberta, mais c'est pas avec un but de chicaner. C'est avec un but d'engager
But it's not with a goal to provoke a fight. It's with a goal to engage.
l'Alberta et puis les peuples qui habitent ici pour leur montrer le but d'avoir un Canada incroyable. Et puis,
So to engage with Alberta and the people here for the goal of having creating an incredible Canada.
puis oui, c'est la même approche que j'aurais avec une province de Québec qui voudrait engager avec cette même sorte de discussion.
And yes, it is the same approach that it would have for the province of Quebec if it wanted to engage in the similar type of discussion.
And this is why we have the courts, because you can have politicians disagree, and that's why you take it through the court, and you take it through the appeals, and you go to the Supreme Court. And ultimately, though, I respect the difference of opinion that Premier Kinew has raised. I think we'll wait to see how our Court of Appeals process goes and see what the courts have to say in the end.
Okay. Did you catch that? Did you catch that? Again, the unmitigated gall. Barely finished, jump right in because she could not let the truth stand for even a second. She couldn't allow it to, you know when you're watching a dramatic movie or a dramatic scene in a play, right? There's this big moment, and then there's always a second or two of pause. Either some music happens before you switch scene or something like that, or before you go to a blackout or something like that to let the moment hit, right? You don't just have this big dramatic revelation and somebody starts saying something right away. She couldn't give it the space. She is so offended, so can't cope, so can't handle truth, so can't handle being contradicted. Because again, the words, I think we know that's not correct, is a very tough on the problem, but kind on the person way of saying, you're a fucking liar. We know that's not correct, but yet you're saying it anyway. We've had this discussion, and you're here saying it anyway. I'm not afraid to tell people what I told you when we had that discussion that you do not seem to have retained because you're still saying it anyway. I think we should shelve this for a couple of years, her arms crossed, unreceptive. He makes another comment at one point. And when you see her head twitch back, the notion is so odious to her. And then she slides in, literally slides in. After Kinew says, by the way, I'm not singling you out for special treatment, Alberta. I would be saying the exact same thing if Quebec was doing it in the same way you do. But Quebec doesn't do it in the same way Alberta does, right? Quebec actually has a political party, and they actually run on trying to seek a mandate for a referendum. They don't just unilaterally impose one because their job is threatened. And Danielle Smith comes in with, and this is why we have the courts, because you could have politicians disagree, and that's why you take it to the court and you take it to the appeals and you go to the Supreme Court, and ultimately no respect to the difference of opinion that Premier Kinew has raised. It's not a difference of opinion. It's not a difference of opinion. It's one person living in reality and one person and deciding that they can't cope with reality, so they'd rather pretend it does not exist. And is working very hard to try to create an alternative facts, alternative reality in which she is more comfortable. And this is why we go to the court. No, we have gone to the courts. Many, many, many times. That's why Mr. Kinew, Premier Kinew, is able to recite this like the back of his hand. This might be your first time going to court on this, Danielle Smith, but it is not the Indigenous people's first time going to court on duty to consult. One of those beloved pipelines that you wanted at one point under the Harper regime failed because You did not get duty to consult. It went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court told you that for that pipeline, you needed duty to consult. And then Stephen Harper was so. The Supreme Court, even in their decision, offered you a roadmap to what you would have to follow in order to satisfy the duty to consult on that pipeline. And rather than saying, okay, well, you know what, we screwed up. This is what the court did. The court said, court gave us guidance, court gave us a roadmap, gave us guideposts. Let's just do what the court said. Let's do that duty to consult. Let's do it according to the law, ethically, according to the Constitution, and let's get our pipeline built. They could have chose that, but no, they chose to call the courts activists and chose to claim that they had been persecuted and then raised tons and tons and tons and tons of money off that. Why did they do that? Because they knew that they were never going to get the okay of Indigenous people. Because they had been extremely firm and clear that this project was a no-go for them. But the people that wanted the project, no matter what, were ready to bulldoze over them. And failed in court. And clearly did not want to negotiate with Indigenous people, so they preferred to let the project fail. And blame Liberals for it. Liberals then came behind and actually bought the pipeline, had it built. Alberta is doing super well when you hear Danielle Smith tweet and speak from the other side of her mouth, taking credit for the increase in exports and all the money that's bringing in, while never acknowledging that Justin Trudeau was ever born. All the other hours of the day and days of the year, she can't keep his name out of her mouth. But when it comes to acknowledging that the reason for which she's doing so well is because Trudeau and Notley are the ones that got TMX off the ground. Coastal GasLink too, I believe. There is no difference of opinion. There is no lack of clarity. There's no lack of jurisprudence. There's just one woman who wants her way, seeming to be single-mindedly tasked with destroying absolutely every single institution that we have, and if she can't, fomenting distrust in them. What her version of reality is, and what everybody else knows reality is. And that's the only difference here. And after all that talk from all those other premiers about what it is that she's up to and the messages that they brought for her, she indicates that she's really learned nothing from them and still has the gall, again, to white-splain from her deep legal experience what duty to consult is. Again, while Premier Rob Kinew is sitting right there at the table. She will do it right in front of them. She has so little respect for them and herself. Mostly herself. This is not a person who respects themselves. Unbelievable, unmitigated gall. Wow. Kit Cassie is our premier. They're the only one at the table that speaks French. Probably, actually. Probably, actually. I don't ever recall any of the other of them. I don't know about the Premier of Yukon, Mr. Curry Dixon, because I'm not familiar with him enough yet. But I believe, yes, he is the only one. And not only does he speak it, he speaks it a bit at Québécois, because he doesn't do the je suis, mais je suis bien content. So he does it a little bit Québécois, Franco-Ontarian style. very Canadian. Um, so here, just want to show you a video, a visual here. As Danielle Smith is launching into the stuff, Mr. Kinew, not so happy anymore, right? Everybody else looking down. Oh, I don't want to be part of this. Oh my God. No, no, no. I'm just going to look down at my fingers because this is really awkward and uncomfortable. Ah, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And that point on, um, then there was a lot more, at least in the immediate um, um, portion, a lot more of uh, throwing shade and flipping a spade here. Um, so Danielle Smith went through all of that stuff, and then for some reason, it was Premier Eby who was asked to respond. Now, I think that Premier Kinew, even if he had been asked to respond to that, probably would have done again the same thing that he did with the previous reporter. I've said what I needed to say on that, and I think I said what I needed to say on that, and I didn't stutter. Thank you. So let's take a look, because I think Mr. Eby got a little boost from seeing Mr. Kinew do that.
Thanks,
Premier
Julia.
Eby, would you care to respond?
Yeah, well, just quickly. I mean, British Columbians sent me here with a clear mission, which is to work with the other premiers and get things done for the country.
Suggesting that there's one premier there that might not be there with that similar mission. Shade, shade, oh, the shade.
They are not asking me to fight with other premiers. They're
As one of them is doing.
not asking me to delay things. They're just saying, make sure that our interests are represented around creating jobs, creating opportunities, supporting my family with having enough money to pay the bills and deal with the cost of living. Those are the priorities of British Columbia. That's what I come to this table with. I disagree profoundly with Premier Smith's referendum. I think it is a huge mistake. And Premier Smith disagrees with me profoundly about issues related.
Now, you see that Premier Smith, when she hears her name, she looks up. And then when this says something negative, she looks to her papers and starts punching something on her cell phone. You notice that?
Related to a pipeline to the North Coast and the North Coast tanker ban. That's okay. We can disagree with each other, and she can still give me a real nice pair of boots, and I can come here and say, what an amazing province you have. We got to find a way to work these things out together at the table, and we have to be at the table to be able to do that, and we will.
Notice how pleased she was when he was mentioned the nice gift of boots. Again, David Eby borrowing a page from Premier Kinew, slicing into her with a whole bunch of shade, but still thanking her for the boots. And stating what an amazing province she has. Oh my God. This is so delicious.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to our next at the mic.
Hi there, Edward Jen from City News. My first question is for the Premier of Alberta. Premier Smith, you said that BC leadership, both current and previous, has led or contributed to separatism sentiment here in Alberta. Following the 2 days that you had with the premiers, including the BC Premier, is that still your same view, that the current leadership in British Columbia is leading to separatism sentiment here in Alberta?
Okay, again, you can see her aspirate jump in to answer, right? You heard her. This question, after what just happened, right? David Eby, nice nasty, threw in those digs. Well, basically saying, I don't know about Premier Smith, but I've been sent here on a message to make things work and not to pick fights with people. And Premier Smith, in a previous comment, you said that the Premier was responsible for everything that was going wrong. Oh yeah, yeah. So, Mr. Smith, you were here previously. You previously tried to pick a fight. Given everything that's been happening over the past 2 days, do you still want to keep picking fights, particularly with Premier Eby? That's really what the question is, right? Let's see. Danielle, who's been bopped on the nose several times now with a rolled up newspaper, politically speaking, by this point, because she must be right pissed. Let's see what she has to say now. Kids and cubs.
I can't erase history. I can't erase the 10 years of targeting with policy against our energy sector. I can't erase the...
There we go. Trudeau. Can't erase history, but sure likes to rewrite it, though.
The actions of BC premiers going all the way back to Christy Clark to set up barriers and try to derail our economic infrastructure to the coast. I know that British Columbians have concerns that need to be addressed. We've been working through and trying to understand what those are and how we might be able to address them. And I hope that we're able to find a way to come to some common ground. But I think there is no question there has been a 180-degree turn on this in the last 18 months. I think we don't forget about the past that happened that led to this moment, but we also have to acknowledge that the Prime Minister is working very constructively with our province and others to try to find solutions. That's what our MOU is about. It was about undoing 8 out of the 9 bad laws that were impairing our ability to attract investment dollars. There's still one other issue that's outstanding that I'm going to work on. But I believe that the Prime Minister is playing the role that the Prime Minister of this country has always been supposed to play. Trade and commerce powers fall under federal jurisdiction for a reason. And it's so that if there are disputes between provinces, then they're able to act as a mediator and mitigator and a champion to try to make sure that issues get resolved so that both parties are able to get their products to market. So as Premier Eby said, there's some different disagreements on routing and some of the concerns that he's raised, but I believe that the Prime Minister, in good faith, is going to work with us to try to find a mutually beneficial arrangement. And that is the role the Prime Minister always should have played. That is not the role the Prime Minister played when it was Prime Minister Trudeau. It's part of the reason why Albertans are as frustrated as they are, and part of the reason why I have to demonstrate that through my actions and through the work that I can do with the Prime Minister, that things have changed. And that's important. And when things have changed, we have to acknowledge it. It doesn't mean that people still don't have hurt feelings and frustration at the economic harm and pain that has been caused for the past 10 years. But we can undo a lot of that by making sure that we're working constructively together. And I think we've entered a new era on that, and I'm glad for it.
And by working constructively, I mean giving me everything that I want. Oh, man. I tell you. I will let you, if you are interested, watch the rest of that so you can catch the rest of the shade and being thrown around there. But boy, was that awkward, wasn't it? Oh, man. So much, so many awkward moments in that. Yeah, if there's any doubt that Premier Wab Kinew is a much more of a prime minister in waiting than Pierre Poilievre is. Oh, it's so cute. You still believe you're prime minister in waiting. Nobody else does. Not even your caucus, who doesn't want to even mention you in their tweets and communications. But yeah, you believe in your dreams, Muffin. Believe in your dreams. Oh, my word. Okay. A couple of other things happened in Canada. But that was the juiciest by far. By far, Kids and Cubs. Wow, that's there's a lot going on there. Uh, but in the other things that we also must be aware of here, we have Premier Kinew obviously standing up for himself. We have David Eby standing up for himself. Another person who's decided that he is going to stand up for himself, not that he hasn't been doing it before, seems to be former federal Environment Minister Steven Guilbeault, who rumors abound that he will be soon announcing, perhaps as early as today, that he is going to resign. It would appear that or maybe not resign on the spot, but resign. Now, there are various stories. There is resign as an MP. There is also resign as a caucus member. Not sure which one it's going to be. I've heard stories that resigning a seat either after the break or maybe after the Quebec election, and I've heard others stating, resigning pretty much close to immediately, maybe at the end of this seating, before right before the summer break. And I've heard others saying quit caucus as soon as this week, and perhaps sit as an independent for some time, maybe until the end of the Quebec election, before he might go on to other things. So lots of different takes on it. Let's look at the CBC one from David Thurton and Danielle. Steven Guilbeault is resigning as a member of parliament, CBC News has learned. The Montreal MP and former environment minister is expected to break the news to his colleagues at the Liberal caucus meeting today, said sources told CBC News and Radio-Canada. A source with knowledge of his decision said Guilbeault will also speak in the House of Commons Wednesday afternoon to inform his constituents of Laurier Sainte-Marie about his decision. Important to note that Laurier Sainte-Marie was the riding that brought in the first ever Bloc Québécois member to the House of Commons. Laurier Sainte-Marie, for those who don't know, is the electoral district in which the gay village in Montreal happens to be located. The Université de Montréal, UQAM, the Barrie metro station and all that. So right in the heart of things there. Guilbeault, a prominent environmental activist, is and very, very, very much respected in the province of Quebec, and also was the Quebec lieutenant for some time. Is quitting the federal Liberals after a series of moves by Prime Minister Mark Carney to roll back key pillars of Canada's climate and environmental policy. But in his speech in the Commons, Guilbeault is expected to stop short of blasting the Carney government's environmental rollbacks and instead strike an optimistic and hopeful tone. He has kept the Prime Minister's office informed of his planned departure, the sources say. And I was hearing a discussion about this, and a lot of people are going to try to spin this as, Guilbeault is leaving in a huff, Guilbeault is mad, Guilbeault, that's the last straw, all that kind of stuff. I don't think it's that type of situation, because when Guilbeault stepped away from cabinet first and didn't, I have this is what a difference of opinion actually looks like, as opposed to Danielle Smith, where she torches everything. Steven Guilbeault has been noting his objections, has been saying that he still supports the government, that he supports the government's overall program. But he's worked very hard, and he's put a lot of his personal capital, invested a lot of his life into the concept that it might be better to work within the system than to work without. And in Justin Trudeau's days, he was correct on that, because he was getting the legislation. Mark Carney's position is to be, what good is legislation if people are openly defying it and it's not going to meet its objectives? We had carbon pricing, but Saskatchewan has determined it would be a non-carbon pricing jurisdiction. It just went ahead and did it, said, well, go ahead, who's going to stop me? And even though we probably had rules to stop, we could have, held back some transfers. We could have started sending bills saying, well, no matter what you claim you are doing, that doesn't change the law federally, and you still need to pay. Here's the bill with interest, and payment is expected on after which investment interest will start accruing. You will be taken to court for this. Um, Lots of things, but the federal government chose to do nothing because carbon pricing became so politically toxic that to take Saskatchewan to court, even though it would have been the right thing to do for openly defying federal law and being in contravention of it, would have been political suicide as well. Not that the Liberals had many seats to lose in Saskatchewan anyway, but it could have spread. But here, Guilbeault, I have an objection. I am making it clear. I'm putting my name to it. I don't have to tear down the Prime Minister or tear down the government or say that the rest of the government is absolutely corrupt and the rest of the program is crapped too, because I don't believe this. I have a disagreement. And disagreement is not necessarily dissent. He's not leading a mutiny. He's not saying, this is terrible. I'm leaving. Who's with me? I was like, I can't abide. I'm sorry. I see what it is that you are trying to do on environment stuff. I disagree that this is the more effective manner. And so, as an environmentalist who's invested a lot of myself and my reputation into these, I cannot sit here as an elected representative and tell fellow Canadians that I believe that this is a better way. I see what you're doing. I see how, in theory, how you think it could work. I don't think it's going to work as well as you think it will. But I mean, if it does, it will be good. I'm just not convinced. I'm not buying into this, though, however. That's way different from, because I'm being openly defied, and therefore, let's put a referendum question that's going to put everything at risk because I didn't get my way. This is what actual disagreement done by grown-ups who don't want to burn everything down on the way out. This is how it's done. According to a source, Guilbeault was approached about crossing the floor to join another party, probably the Greens, because Elizabeth May is on the record saying that she would love to have Steven Guilbeault join the Greens, or even sit as an independent. He's expected to remain as an MP until the House rises for the summer. So this is what I've heard other versions of what it is that he's planned. CTV News and the Globe and Mail first reported some of the details of Guilbeault's departure a year into the Carney government mandate. A year into the Carney's government mandate, it has repealed the consumer carbon tax, eliminated the EV sales mandate, signaled the end of the oil and gas emissions cap, and reversed the Liberal promise to end fossil fuel subsidies. The promise that was never met anyway. So what was the point? Ottawa is also advancing a number of major projects which are expected to increase planet warming carbon pollution at home and abroad, including a bitumen pipeline to Canada's west coast and numerous LNG export terminals. Those projects are also expected to generate massive provincial royalties, boost the national GDP, and help Canada diversify trade from the US. Many of these reversals include policies that Guilbeault either was involved in, championing, or spearheaded during his nearly 4 years as Canada's Environment and Climate Change Minister. But all of this seemed to come to a head in November when Carney and the Alberta Premier, Danielle Smith, signed a memorandum of understanding for a new energy accord that included a commitment to suspend federal clean electricity regulations, which would have had the most impact in Alberta. Quote, when I entered politics, it was because I had a deep conviction that I could make a difference in fighting climate change and protecting our environment. Guilbeault wrote in the letter announcing his resignation from Carney's cabinet soon after that memorandum was signed. Quote, my commitment to leaving a better world for the future of our children and our planet remains unchanged. No longer at the cabinet table, Guilbeault still attempted to create change from within. A source tells CBC News that Guilbeault assisted the government as it crafted its enhanced nature strategy and extended its commitment to international climate finance. He also attempted to influence the direction of the negotiations of the Alberta MOU. He vocally urged the government to not compromise on industrial carbon pricing and undermine other climate commitments. In May, both governments released an implementation agreement that delayed the ramp-up of the price on big emitters. Quote, I'm a good friend of Steven. I've worked a lot to bring him into politics, and he will always be a good friend, said Industry Minister Mélanie Joly. But I also think that what we've done with the MOU makes sense. I really want him to stay. I think he's a great guy. I'd rather have him in caucus saying what he thinks, said Ontario Liberal MP Marcus Pawlowski. Some independent estimates state that Canada is not on track to achieve its near-term nor longer-term net zero targets by 2050. Guilbeault entered federal politics in 2019. Before that, he was a prominent environmental activist founding Équiterre and leading campaigns for Greenpeace. He captured headlines in 2011 by scaling the CN Tower and unfurling a banner that read, quote, Canada and Bush Climate Killers, a protest of both Canada and the US failing to ratify the 1997 Kyoto Agreement to cut greenhouse gas emissions. Canada ultimately ratified the treaty the following year, a move that would have Pierre, if he were prime minister and using the notwithstanding clause only to fight serious crime, declare Guilbeault an eco-terrorist. A Greenpeace spokesperson called Guilbeault's resignation, quote, a red flag larger than a protest banner. Quote, it's deeply concerning and underlines what we've been saying for months. Mark Carney is prioritizing what is good for oil companies over what's good for regular Canadians, said Keith Stewart, Greenpeace Canada's senior energy strategist. I believe we had Keith Stewart as a guest once on our show, actually, if I'm not mistaken. Guilbeault's resignation is not the only vacancy left on the Liberal benches. BC MP Jonathan Wilkinson and Toronto MP Nate Erskine-Smith have both announced that they will be leaving. The Liberals will need to win those seats back to maintain their parliamentary majority. But with the House of Commons resigning for the summer in June, that is not an immediate worry for the Carney government. So again, could be an easy come, easy go majority if those seats do not come back into Liberal hands. There's no reason to believe that they would not at the moment, considering how popular the Carney government is. But by the time those by-elections are called and held, will Canadians feel the same? That's a risk. But Mr. Prime Minister Carney seems to be willing to take that, and it does not fear it, not to appear to fear the Canadian public or electorate. So that's what we're seeing from Steven Guilbeault. We'll find out more because caucus meetings, not sure that they've happened yet. This might be something that happens a little later today. I'm going to go take a look at my iPolitics thing and see if there is a little bit of news or at least a time that would be suggested here. So let's see here. Amid a swirl of speculation over possible imminent exit of one of his party's most outspoken environmentalists, Prime Minister Mark Carney is set to go before the cameras this morning to outline what the advisory describes as, quote, new measures to make Canada more secure and prosperous. That was taking place at 8:30 this morning. Let's see if there's anything else that says that this is a time here. Tim Hodgson, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, will be making the announcement involving Germany and xylisms that we were talking about a little earlier. I don't see a time here that which the meeting will be taking place, but that he will be coming out to make whatever announcement. So we'll just have to stay tuned over the course of the day for when it does come out. So we have this, and it seems here that Steven Guilbeault might just simply be deciding that he might be more effective in influencing government policy from within an organization. Apparently, there's a lot of people that have reached out to him with offers, so he is definitely not going to have trouble landing in a spot where he will be able to still be a voice of influence. It'll be interesting to see what the Liberal Party does for choosing a lieutenant for Quebec as well, considering that Steven Guilbeault really was the guy. Not sure if he was still the lieutenant, if he had stepped down from lieutenant Quebec position when he stepped down from cabinet as well. It could have been, maybe that issue has already been resolved. And I just missed it. Also, an interesting thing that happened when we're talking about standing up for ourselves, Canada decided that it would stand up for itself in a very interesting way. Remember when we took away the digital services tax, and I said, a lot of people said, it was a concession, we bent, we came, and Carolyn Levitt came up and said, we caved, I believe, was her gloating, premature enunciation. And I said, hold back on that. because, well, first of all, we might be coming back for it through another route with our collaboration with our European partners, because the whole reason we went early is we found that the Europeans weren't going fast enough, but they were looking to do the same thing. So we could always join them when they would go and do that. Um, and how do you put it? And basically, we can join that effort, or we could have done this here. This came out on May 21st. Darren Major of the CBC has this one here and says large online streaming providers like Disney Plus, Netflix, and Prime Video will be expected to contribute more of their revenue to Canadian content, the Canadian Radio, Television, and Telecommunications Commission, CRTC, announced Thursday. The Online Streaming Act, which passed in 2023 under the former Trudeau government, enabled the broadcast regulator to impose a rule ordering all streaming companies with at least $25 million in annual Canadian revenue to direct a portion of that towards supporting the creation of Canadian content, including movies, television, and local news. The CRTC initially set that base contribution at 5% of a company's Canadian revenue, but that now is being raised to 15%. Mm. Mm. So we went in, we said, yeah, we'll eliminate that digital services tax. It seems that we got nothing for it. That some believe. I believe that one of the things that we got for it is Donald Trump signing that executive order stating that none of his tariff folly would apply to anything that was already under CUSMA, leading a whole bunch of Canadian organizations and businesses that were not registered under the CUSMA thing to file their paperwork in the meantime for that, thus excluding even more of our products from his tariffs. But not being happy with things are going, it appears that as as we have Ambassador Doucheface pretending that he does not know why it is that we are upset with him, and pretending that there is nothing in history that happened before we decided to remove most provinces and decided to remove alcohol from the shelves. Pete Hoekstra also seems to believe that we have 11 provinces. We still have alcohol in 11 jurisdictions because Alberta and Saskatchewan, team players that they are, decided to put American alcohol back on the shelves, but not 11 provinces. It goes to show how much you care about actually doing your job as ambassador of the United States to Canada when you don't know that the country to which you are the ambassador has 10 provinces and 3 territories and not 13 provinces. You know. But yes, not only are we changing our minds about that, but the contribution rate that we believed should have been 5% is actually now going to be 15. We can change rates on the fly too, Donald. A lot of what we're doing today is recalibrating Canadian content contributions, Scott Shortliff, a CRTC vice president, said during a media briefing. At the same time, the CRTC is lowering the base contribution rate for traditional podcasters to 25%. Previously, that rate ranged from 30 to 45%. So, by the way, United States of America, not only are we coming back to you for money for your digital stuff, and not only is it going to be 15% based on 15% of your revenue and not 5, also because we're coming to get that money from you, we're going to be able to relieve some pressure from our own Canadian broadcasters who had to pay 30 to 45% as a base contribution rate for traditional podcasters. We're going to really reduce that to 25. So you're still getting a deal because it's only 15 for you. Would you like us to make it 25 and have it on par? Making it less expensive for traditional broadcasters that are actually Canadian based, and making it more expensive for non-Canadian ones. The regulator says the new rules will, quote, stabilize funding for Canadian content around $2 billion per year. The CRTC also changed some of its requirements for how it expects streaming companies to direct their CAN contributions. Initially, the regulator wanted online streamers to direct their cash towards national funds that produce Canadian content, such as the Canadian Media Fund, which helped create the hugely successful television show Heated Rivalry. The new rules would instead allow platforms to work with Canadian production companies to produce content. Quote, we're trying to establish paths where streaming services will see this as an investment in great content that will appeal to Canadians and international audiences, as opposed to just saying that there are requirements being imposed on them, Shortlift said. A portion of the funds from traditional broadcasters and online streaming platforms that make more than $100 million per year in Canadian revenue must also be directed to a fund that would support services of, quote, exceptional importance. Shortlift said such services would include the Cable Public Affairs Channel and the Weather Network. The CRTC is also implementing discoverability guidelines with the aim that Canadian and Indigenous content is prominently presented to viewers on streaming platforms. Meaning, Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture Mark Miller said in a social media post that the government is reviewing the CRTC changes. Quote, as we carefully assess its impacts, it will always be paramount to ensure that Canadians continue to see themselves reflected on screen, hear Canadian voices, and celebrate what makes this country unique, he wrote Thursday. Streamers challenged the initial 5% requirement in court, and the funds haven't started flowing yet. Asked how Authority's increase will impact the legal battle, Shortlift said he was, quote, confident the court would rule in the CRTC's favor. Quote, we do recognize there's a stay in place, but in the meantime, we're going forward in establishing these policies. We'll move forward in starting to do tailored conditions of service where we can work with those platforms, he said. We're not stopping our work because of that. The Motion Picture Association of Canada, which advocates for large streamers like Disney Plus, Netflix, and Prime Video, stated in a statement Thursday that it strongly condemns the CRTC's latest decision. Is that the Motion Picture Association of Canada or? Quote, this burdensome framework unfairly targets global streamers with requirements that directly violate Canada's obligations under the Canada-US-Mexico trade agreement, the statement reads. This decision triples the cost of doing business in Canada and will spark even more inflation in the market, making further investments and innovation less attractive. For years, the MPA has consistently made clear that Canada's Online Streaming Act is an unfair trade practice. We urge the Canadian government to reconsider this approach. Doesn't sound like the words of the Motion Picture Association of Canada, but apparently they are. Michael Geist, the University of Ottawa's Canada Research Chair in Internet and E-commerce Law, told CBC News that if the CRTC regulations are held up by the court, Canadians could likely see the cost of their streaming subscriptions increase. Quote, we may well see increased prices for Canadian consumers as the cost of doing business just went up significantly, Geist said. Canada, with this decision, becomes really one of the most expensive countries for streamers to operate in. Okay. They've been getting pretty much of a free ride so far. The Online Streaming Act has come under heavy fire from U.S. lawmakers who label it a trade irritant and dub it a Netflix tax, terms that Pierre Poilievre was very happy to take up and repeat here as he claims he's going to stand for Canada, while immediately tripping over himself and falling to the ground. Please get him a fainting couch with apoplectic dismay that Canada would dare stand up for itself and not bend the knee to Trump. But yes, tell us how you stand to Canada. You stand for Canada, Pierre. Wow. Republican Representative Lloyd Smucker. So hard not to resist the ability to change that name to something that rhymes with Smucker. Pettiness activated. Proposed a bill in March that would require the U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer to investigate the tax and take retaliatory action if it's deemed an unfair trade practice. Gee, I wonder what the United States is going to determine. The suspense is killing me. Quote, we've seen the U.S. Trade Representative, which leads on this issue for the United States, specifically cite this legislation as being a trade irritant. Well, yes, but everything, our mere existence apparently is a trade irritant for you. So, sorry, we're not going to take criticism from people from whom we would not take advice. You may sit down now. We've seen that the U.S. Trade Representative, which leads on this issue for the United States, specifically cite this legislation as being a trade irritant, and the CRTC's latest decision is only going to accelerate their concerns and in all likelihood is going to lead to increased pressure for Canada to back off this approach, Geist said. Well, clearly, we're shivering and quaking in our boots at this threat because we just did it. Our CRTC just recommended it. I guess the Canadian government has to approve it, and I guess that's where the pressure is being applied now. But again, the Canadian government can just turn around and say, well, it's not us. I mean, CRTC is an independent body. They're the ones who recommended it. I mean, we're just following the recommendations. But you don't have to. It's not us. Sorry. We don't know why you're upset that we're just following what our regulatory body recommended. It's not like we asked for it or we wanted it. That's just what they recommended. And I mean, we don't know. We're not going to purport to know better than our own regulatory body. These experts that have said, "Oh yeah, it's true. You don't like experts," but we still do. Those experts that have determined that this is what the path forward should be. What's up? I'm sorry, our hands are tied. It's a two-way street. Two can play that game. These new regulations come against the backdrop of trade talks over CUSMA this year. The text of the agreement says July 1st is the date by which the three countries need to either approve a renewal of the existing agreement or signal their intention to exit the pact, but that process can take up to 10 years. So very likely that Prime Minister Mark Carney may have just may go back into those negotiations when the United States finally decides that it wants to come back and sit at the table. That Oh, yeah. Sorry, guys. We know that we removed that digital services tax from the whole thing, but we changed our minds. Oh no, no, well, no, 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 no. It's not a digital services tax now. It's a Canadian content creation contribution. I mean, you're making money off Canadians. I mean, right? Certainly, you would think that Canadians would want to watch some Canadian-produced content. So, I mean, would certainly nice to be having more of that on your platform and up there and visual, very visible, so that Canadians can see it and easily find it. And I mean, you didn't really think that you were going to come into Canada and do business for free in this era of tariffs and fees and stuff, right? You didn't actually think that your this whole digital stuff that's like going to be like it seems to be the big market of the future, particularly with AI and all that kind of stuff. You didn't really think that, especially after taking our concession and then running to a mic and trying to embarrass us with it, claiming that we caved. You didn't think that that was not going to come back now, did you? Oh, you bless your hearts. Bless your wee little hearts. Emphasis on wee and little. Prime Minister's playing the game. Prime Minister's playing the game. You don't like the fact that we've taken the alcohol off the shelves. Okay. Well, here, and you believe that's an irritant. Well, here's another little irritant that we're going to throw on to the pile. So that when it comes time to negotiate and you want us to make a concession, well, maybe this is the one that we'll make, and you just keep your damn mitts off our supply management. And maybe you would want to fix that aluminum thing because I believe that all those net streamers and those high-tech CE bros were the people that were in the front row, right, during the inauguration, who all volunteered as tribute or contributed tribute. Yeah, we're not. It would seem to us that strategically. Putting that stuff back on the table and getting them mad at you, especially if you're not able to deliver for them. That would be inconvenient for you. Oh, gee. Oh, look at that. Sorry, the Habs are playing. You deal with that and get back to us when you're ready to come to the table. Once those people that have showed up in the front row at your inauguration express extreme displeasure with you and start calling for your hide for not delivering on what it is that you promised them for their tributes. When that pressure gets to you enough, call us. We may or may not pick up the phone. Hey, ketchup all over the walls, darlings. Ketchup all over the walls, I assume. But yeah, It seems that we are standing up for ourselves and once again and tell the United States, um, girl, you need to understand that we see you and we smell you coming, like from a mile away. What you're doing, we're not intimidated and we're not impressed. If you can change rates and throw extra things on the table at the last week, well, just watch us because we can do it too. And we can, as we have some of the best trade negotiators in the entire world, we can probably do it better. So when you're done crying yourselves out, call us. Let's see if we can make an actual deal. Apparently, there's somebody south of us who believes that there's an art to it. Damn, I don't know what's wrong with me today. Premier Kinew has inspired me. I'm all fired up. Ah, okay. What else? Um, yeah, I would show you clips of Pierre Polyev tripping all over himself, saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe we're doing this! Surrender to the United States, please." What's the point? He's irrelevant. The other thing that appears to be going on in terms of us flexing our muscles is Canada is in the process of moving full steam ahead with India in terms of a potential free trade agreement, um, which is kind of interesting. Again, showing the Americans as we are about to go into these negotiations whenever the United States decides to show up for them. Again, we have been scoring big time at that singles bar. People are just buying us Cosmo after Cosmo. It's almost like they're trying to get us drunk. We got that deal, Germany, with the wanting to buy some of the capacity on xylisms. We're making a contract for that. That's going to be announced. Breaking news right now. Canada negotiating the purchase of aerial surveillance system with the Swedes instead of the American competitor. How about that? Judy Trin, CTV. In front of a packed room of Canadian corporate defense and security leaders, Prime Minister Mark Carney announced that Canada has entered negotiations to procure Global Eye, an advanced aerial surveillance system developed in Sweden that uses Canadian-made jets. The Global Eye is an airborne warning system and control system, AEWNC, created by Swedish defense and security company Saab. The radar system is integrated into Bombardier's Global 6500, transforming the corporate jet into a cutting-edge surveillance aircraft. The federal government is negotiating a deal that would see at least 1/3 of the projected fleet of the Global Eye aircraft manufactured in Canada over the next 15 years. Wow, all those planes with Air Asia, and now this. Once the contracts are signed, sealed, and delivered, Bombardier could be manufacturing at least 40 aircraft in its plant in Montreal and Toronto. The projected number also includes orders from Canada's allies. Carney outlined the broad strokes in Ottawa during a keynote speech at CANSEC, the largest defense and security trade conference in Canada. In a news release, the government said the deal has the potential to support more than 3,000 jobs in the Canadian aerospace and defense sectors, from skilled trades to engineering to computing. The CBC has reported that the Department of National Defense is interested in purchasing 6 Global Eye systems at a cost of more than $5 billion. What was that the United States was saying about us not being serious about spending on defense? Oh, yeah, the problem is not that we're not serious about spending on defense. The problem is that we're not serious about spending more defense dollars in the United States. Oopsie poopsie. Maybe you should have been nicer to us on the way up, because we are have no problem kicking you in the shins on the way down. Just saying. This Once built, the Global Eye will be a key part of bolstering North American security by detecting and deterring threats in the Arctic. Meanwhile, European media has reported that the NATO Support and Procurement Agency, NSPA, selected the Joint Sab Bombardier Global Eye to replace its aging fleet of 14 Boeing E-3A Sentries. Other countries such as France, Germany, Denmark, and Finland are also interested in purchasing the specialized Raider planes. Hello, Boeing, American company who's not been doing really well lately. Um, yeah, uh, your aging fleet, we're not going to replace it with more Boeings. We're going to replace it with something from Sweden and Canada. We're making money like never before. The announcement of the negotiations also aligns with Carney's government's defense industrial strategy of reducing reliance on the United States while building up the domestic military industrial base. The DIS aims to double non-US exports over the next 10 years and give Canadian companies a 70% share of defense contracts. Of course, we're saying that we only want to double over the next 10 years. What are the odds? What are the odds considering the amount of money, the sheer amount of money that we are going to be spending on defense over the next foreseeable future in order to reach that 5%? How much do you want to bet that when all is said and done, that it's going to be way more than doubling non-US exports and us in terms of our military spending, when we're spending 70 cents on every dollar to the United States, how much they say publicly they want to reduce it by. How much do you want to believe that when all is said and done, it ends up being way much more? Oh, we said we wanted to decrease it by 15%. We ended up decreasing it by 30. Oh my God, how did that happen? Oh, whoopsie doodle pants. I guess we didn't keep track of how well we were doing. Oh, well, the contracts are signed now. In his breakfast keynote on Wednesday, Carney also announced that the government is implementing a new 90-day approval standard to provide more predictable decisions. He also announced incentivizing foreign contractors to subcontract to Canadian firms and invest in the domestic supply chain, a new strategic partnership to enable companies to work more closely with government to build sovereign capability, a defense concierge service to connect small and medium businesses with the right programs, provincial partners, and export opportunities, and the creation of a defense advisory forum to ensure government and industry goals remain in sync. The advisory forum will be co-chaired by the Ministers of National Defense, Industry, and the Secretary of State for Defense Procurement. In the past few months, Canada has been successful in being named the new global headquarters for the Defense Security and Resilience Bank, which comes with 3,500 protected jobs. Canada is also participating in Security Action for Europe, SAFE, and European Loan Program to boost military industrial capability. Participation in SAFE gives Canadian companies preferential access to European procurement projects. But while closer ties have been forged with Europe, the U.S. relationship is fraying. Earlier this month, Elbridge Colby, the U.S. Undersecretary for Defense, announced the suspension of the Permanent Joint Board on Defense. The Advisory Board for U.S.-Canada Bilateral Defense Corporation was established in 1940. Tensions have also increased over Canada's decision to review the procurement of the F-35s from U.S.-based Lockheed Martin while reevaluating the merits of the Gripen fighter, a jet also made by Saab. And another thing, by the way, to counter that claim that we're not being serious about that defense thing. It would appear that very recently there had been an announcement with regard to Canada and its NATO mission in Latvia, where I believe we had Latvian representatives here as well for that. And we made some announcements that we were going to be increasing our role in Latvia. And I'm just trying to see here if I can find it very quickly, because this happened, I think, a little more than a week ago now. And just with everything that had been going on with those very big announcements, with regard to the energy grid and the MOU and all of that kind of stuff, that it kind of slipped through the cracks. So just trying to see if I can find it relatively quickly here so that I can throw it in, because I simply just thought about it. There we go. Is this one it? Does not seem to be here. Something from Murray Brewster with regard to drone wars in Latvia, but I do not believe that is the thing that we are talking about, because this one is a training exercise and not an announcement. So yeah, hopefully I will be able to find that for you here, kits and cubs, and get that to you. But since we were talking about India, and we'll get back to that, and then I'll find the Latvian announcement for you here. It says that Canada is looking to strengthen economic ties with India while closely watching early negotiations between the United States and Mexico on the trilateral agreement. More than 150 Canadian industry leaders are meeting with India's largest ever trade delegation this week as both countries look to expand trade and investment opportunities. Oh, United States, yeah, you're threatening us. By the way, third largest economy, most populous country in the world, is having their largest ever trade delegation, and it's coming to Canada. If you think you got it like that, you may want to rethink that. Barry Appleton, an international trade expert and interim director of the Basile Legal Advisory Center, says the visit marks a significant moment in the Canada-India relationship. This is unprecedented. This is the largest trade delegation from India ever, ever in the world, Appleton said during an interview on CTV Your Morning on Monday. The talks come months after Canada and India signed a multi-billion-dollar comprehensive economic partnership agreement aimed at doubling two-way trade by 2030. Appleton said India's growing economy and strategic interests make it a natural partner for Canada as it looks to diversify beyond the United States. Quote, when we look at the size of the market, our trade with Indians is about 30 billion a year, he said. Our trade with the United States is 30 times that, almost $1 trillion a year. Still, he said the relationship with India offers significant long-term potential with agriculture, energy, and technology as key sectors. Quote, we have a lot of opportunity to sell agricultural projects, to sell manufactured goods, to import manufactured goods, to partner on technology, he said. Energy exports could also play a major role in the relationship. Quote, of course, we have energy, which India desperately wants, and we desperately want to sell, Appleton said. He cautioned, however, that building stronger trade ties with India will take time after years of strained diplomatic relations. Appleton described the renewed relationship as part of a broader Indo-Pacific strategy for Canada. Quote, so this is a major pivot, an Indo-Pacific pivot, something that Canada really wants to do. At the same time, Canada is monitoring the first phase of the CUSMA negotiations between the United States and Mexico. Canada is not participating in the opening round of discussions. Appleton said the structure of the talks raises concerns for Canada, particularly because decisions made during U.S.-Mexico decisions could affect Canadian industries. Quote, the U.S. structured the talks. They talked to Mexico first and talked with us second, he said, but they're setting the table, and we're not there when they set the table. The auto sector is one area Canada will be watching closely. The auto discussions in Mexico could significantly impact the auto discussions for Canada, Appleton said. He added that Canada must pay close attention to developments emerging from the negotiations. Quote, we have to monitor very carefully what goes on and see where that goes, because the United States is clearly going to try to use this as an opportunity to divide and conquer. Hopefully our relationship with Mexico is a little stronger than that. We got a little closer in the sense that Mexico very recently made a decision to go down a path similar to ours, because it used to be was divided into public and private sectors, and it seems that the government of Mexico has announced a plan to achieve universal health coverage by 2027. So that was a big announcement, and we'll definitely have much more in common, and maybe more ability to trade in that field once that takes place. So, but yes, this is definitely a big move here in Mexico. So hopefully, like I said, our interactions with the nation will make it such that this attempt to divide and conquer the Mexicans may not be as open to it as the United States would hope. But yeah, uh, big news again coming from our partners. Um, Appleton said that negotiations with the U.S. are expected to focus on supply management, provincial economic policies, and digital trade. Despite concerns about Canada's position in the talks, Appleton said the country still has leverage. Quote, "I'm a big believer that we have leverage and that we haven't used," he said. The key question, he added, is whether Canada is prepared to use it. Now we need to see, are we going to use the leverage that we have, or are we going to get steamrolled over? One of the things that we have been able to show the United States is that we are not so desperate to get a deal that we're willing to just hand everything over. That we're actually willing to walk away from the table. The trade delegation itself here says Indian Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal, and this is from Ishan Garg from CBC News, will be in Canada from May 25th to 27th with the largest Indian trade and investment delegation to ever visit any country. The delegation includes representatives from energy, infrastructure, technology, manufacturing, investment, and innovation sectors, according to Prashant Srivastava, president of the Toronto-based Indo-Canadian Chamber of Commerce. This is not a routine diplomatic engagement. Srivastava added that Canada's critical minerals and monetary reserves, coupled with India's 1.4 billion strong consumer market, offers opportunities for businesses on both sides. When Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney visited New Delhi in March, the two countries signed agreements covering critical minerals, clean energy cooperation, and a landmark uranium supply deal worth $1.9 billion. Ottawa and Delhi also relaunched negotiations for a free trade agreement. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced that the aim was to realize the full potential of economic cooperation and boost bilateral trade to $50 billion by 2030. Goyal's Canada trip is expected to catalyze trade talks between the two countries. All of this seemed possible just a year ago, of course, with all Canada-India relations having hit a historic low in 2023, after then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau publicly alleged the Indian government's involvement in the killing of Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar near Vancouver. Both sides called back diplomatic staff, trade talks froze, and uncertainty loomed over economic ties. When Carney succeeded Trudeau last year, things changed in light of U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff wars. Carney called India a, quote, a natural partner during a visit to Mumbai in February 2026. Though Ottawa-Delhi ties have improved dramatically, India continues to raise the issue of Sikh separatists operating on Canadian soil. Randhir Jaiswal, the spokesperson for India's Ministry of External Affairs, told reporters earlier this month that, quote, India has repeatedly urged the Canadian government to take effective action against anti-India extremist elements operating from its soil. Speaking, of course, India's definition of anti-India extremists and ours is completely different, because in India, mere talk of a Khalistan state is considered extremist talk, whereas in Canada, we clearly do not have the same view about the sovereignty issue. We've had two referendums in Quebec. We have a Parti Québécois. We have a Bloc Québécois party. We clearly do not believe that the mere talk of it constitutes extremism. And well, they're here, so it's our laws in our country that reign supreme, not Indian law in Canada. Speaking in March, Carney said there had been progress with India on the issue of foreign interference, while reiterating that Canada would not tolerate foreign interference or transnational repression by anyone. But the issue is not a deal breaker, according to experts. Quote, political relations have improved, said Jawad Ashraf, a former Indian diplomat and current chairman of the India Trade Promotion Organization. Quote, we are seeing a much more constructive and positive approach from the Canadian side, but we will continue to deal with those issues. See, this type of comment always raises suspicion for me. We are seeing much more constructive and positive approach from the Canadian side. And from yours? What about yours? Are you being more positive and constructive? He emphasized that Commerce Minister Goyal is heading to Canada, quote, with a very serious intent to make concrete advancements in the negotiations on the Canada-India Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, known as CEPA. Canada-India trade currently stands at $10 billion, but one cannot measure the importance of this relationship purely in terms of the trade value, said Ashraf. The push to take this trade to $50 billion over the next 4 years comes as both Ottawa and Delhi have been looking to diversify away from their traditional trade partners. For Canada, the U.S. under President Donald Trump isn't as reliable as it's been historically, and for India, reducing trade dependence on the U.S. as well as China is imperative, experts say. India has recently been on a spree of finalizing new free trade agreements. Ashraf said the trade pact with the United Kingdom last year and another with the European Union finalized this year is India's signal to the world that it's open for business. We're looking forward to linking up, in a sense, a network of partnerships in which brings the EU, Canada, India, UK down towards Australia, Southeast Asia, and a sort of web of relationships and trade partnerships, Ashraf said. Canada has all the strengths that we need and all the resources that we require. Some Canadians experts see enormous opportunities in a greater partnership with India. Parthram Monharam, the director of the India Innovation Institute at the University of Toronto, told the UK Guardian that India, quote, is a tremendous country to hitch your wagon to. Most other economies in the world, even if they're rich, are extremely stagnant because of demographics. A deal with India gives you a big piece of a fast-growing economy, mainly because the average age in India of the population is relatively young, especially as it compares to Canada. The median age of India's population is approximately 28 to 30 years old, which places India among the youngest large populations in the world, with over 40% of its people under the age of 25. For comparison, this is significantly lower than the median age in other major global powers, such as the United States, which is 38 years, and China, 39 to 40 years. If we are looking for Canada specifically, the average age in Canada is 41.8 years, while the median age is 40.6 years. We're an old country. so, yeah, that definitely is a big advantage for us as it pertains to India and what it is that we are pursuing there. Let's see. Sorry, there we go. ICCC President Srivastava argues that India is crucial to Canada's China Plus One strategy, a policy move to reduce reliance on Chinese imports. Quote, there's a huge opportunity, especially in the IT, AI, education-related services in which both countries would complement each other, Srivastava said. Canadian businesses are also seeking simpler rules of entry in India and clarity on taxation, compliance, regulatory transparency, and streamlined administrative processes. ICCC is hoping a free trade agreement will address these issues and make India's operating environment more attractive, especially for small and medium-sized businesses. India also aims to show Canadian institutional investors that it's an attractive destination for their money. Canadian firms invested $3.9 billion in India between 2000 and March 2024, with pensions funds emerging as marquee investors. As India is currently facing record foreign investment outflows and a weakening rupee, maintaining foreign investment could be at the top of the agenda. When the Indian delegation led by Commerce Minister Goebbles lands in Ottawa, the aim will not only be to advance free trade negotiations, but also help businesses across the borders connect with each other, Ashraf said. The agreements that governments enter into open the doors, but it's for the businesses to actually do business, he said, adding that this visit is about the diversification of economic partnerships at one time of great economic uncertainty and fluidity. Now, while all of this is very, very, very positive, there is still a bug, of course, and that is the fact, and like I said, a lot of members of the Sikh community in Canada or Sikh community are very concerned about this, right? Because the close-knit ties, because of the transnational repression issue. And there is something that happened very shortly prior to all of this that is still cause for concern. This in the Globe and Mail. India's top diplomat in Canada says CSIS has been politically compromised and that the RCMP are investigating fantasy allegations that Indian officials are involved in crimes against Canadians. The government of India is still not publicly acknowledging in any way, shape, or form that it has ever contributed to doing anything incorrect. And that all of this is still mere fantasy, and that India is being treated so unfairly, so persecuted, which again leads us to wonder once again if they are showing us who they are, should we believe them the second time? because it doesn't seem that we believe in them the first. In a sweeping interview with the Globe and Mail, High Commissioner Dinesh Patnaik, a man who oh, it would be really nice as part of this deal if we can ask for another and better High Commissioner. Let's just put it that way. Dinesh Patnaik went on the offensive, attacking the integrity of Canada's national security agencies while pushing back against assertions from Canadian authorities that the government of India has directed multiple homicide plots and foreign interference campaigns on Canadian soil. Gee, just as the largest trade delegation comes to Canada, their High Commissioner decides to do this. Wow, shades of Danielle Smith, eh? Setting fire to something as it's coming to be. Mr. Patnaik asserted that the Canadian Security Intelligence Service has been compromised by 6 separatists using Canada as a base for their campaign to carve out a breakaway state in the northwest of India, which they call Khalistan. He said the investigation into the slaying of BC activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar has been, quote, twisted around and politicized, adding that while the RCMP is a, quote, an independent, very good organization, in the past the force has been, quote, susceptible to political direction. There are a whole lot of allegations within India that the Canadian security establishment is compromised, he said, suggesting that Khalistani groups have paid Canadian intelligence officers to report false claims against India. There's a whole lot of allegations within India that the Canadian security establishment is compromised. Allegations made by who and that serve who? Sir. Mr. Patnaik, a career diplomat who's became High Commissioner to Canada in September, made his pointed comments in an exclusive interview at a time when Canada is trying to reset relations with the country of 1.4 billion people. A spokesperson for Canada's Minister of Public Safety, Gary Anandan Sangri, in an email to the Globe, rejected the diplomat's allegation that Canada's security agencies have been compromised. Quote, any suggestion that CSIS is compromised is false and undermines the dedicated work of the men and women who serve to keep Canadians safe, Simon Lafortune said. We have full confidence in CSIS's integrity, independence, and its critical role in identifying and assessing threats to Canadian national security. While the minister didn't name India, he said CSIS's threat assessment of the main perpetrators of foreign interference and transnational repression against Canada has not changed. Earlier this month, the agency said in its annual report that India has engaged in, quote, surveillance and other coercive tactics meant to suppress criticism of the government of India and create fear in the community. In the interview, the High Commissioner said those allegations are baseless. Prove it. But acknowledge it's possible that there could be rogue agents operating outside of New Delhi's direction. Sure there are. Sure there are, Jan. He said Canada and India may have their differences, but any assertions of Indian government involvement in crimes against Canadians aren't based in reality. Quote, there are some real issues and some fantasy issues, he said. The RCMP declined to address the diplomat's statement, saying, quote, we continue to engage and build our relationship with India, recognizing its importance. Patnaik also denied that India has used its diplomatic missions to conduct covert activities and says the 7 Indian officials expelled after Nijjar's slaying in June 2023 weren't doing anything improper. The government of the United States, particularly the state of New York, disagrees with you, sir. There's actually court action going on. Charges have been laid. The Globe recently reported that in the months after Mr. Nijjar's death, Canadian national security officials were presented with intelligence alleging that Indian consular staff operating in Vancouver supplied information that assisted in the assassination. The real threat to Canada, Mr. Patnaik said, is from extreme elements of the Khalistan independence movement. Oh, yes, yes. He accused Ottawa of protecting Khalistani separatists who the government of India alleges are linked to violence. Mr. Patnaik said Canada crossed a line by expelling the previous High Commissioner Sanjay Kumar Verma in 2024. He blamed Khalistani separatists for sowing division between the two countries and said they found an ally in the former Trudeau government. Quote, they can't succeed in any other country, not in the UK, not in Australia, not in the US, he said. They succeeded in Canada because they had a prime minister who was weak enough to take their thing. A recently released RCMP briefing obtained through the Federal Access to Information Law shows that in 2024, the Mounties suspected that the Indian government was involved in the murder of at least 2 pro-Khalistan activists in Canada. The documents also say that India plotted to kill 3 other Canadians after allegedly orchestrating the killing of Mr. Nijjar. And also, we got a lot of information from the United States, based on their investigation of a case that happened over there, which has a lot of very eerie links to what happened here, including some of the same people being involved. But apparently, this is fantasy. And just like Danielle, the High Commissioner also just can't quit Trudeau. The High Commissioner told the Globe that Ottawa has not produced any credible proof that India is behind plots targeting Khalistani separatists. Again, that is a claim. That doesn't mean that we haven't. And we probably have, but the government of India choosing to recognize publicly that we have. We will note that the government of India has not provided any credible proof that it is not behind plots targeting Khalistani separatists either. They just say they're not. He said there are allegations on both sides. No, there are not allegations on both sides. There are allegations on one side on transnational repression. Just one. Just one. And insisted that India has cooperated with the Mounties on foreign interference investigations. That may or may not be so. It seems that everybody seems to be indicating that there has been some cooperation, but until you are willing to change your public stance, until you keep on gaslighting that you never have and do not do anything wrong and are not involved in that, when there is clear evidence that that is not the case, and not just in our country. We can't take these claims seriously. Quote, go to court and prove it before you make the allegations in public. No, there's no requirement to that, boo-boo kitty. There's no requirement that we go to court and prove it before we can begin to make allegations. Sir. You go to court and prove you didn't. Before you make it, you go to court and prove that CSIS is compromised before making allegations, sir. Again, we're getting this Goebbles thing. They are doing exactly what they accuse us of doing, and then they get upset. If it upsets you when you think that we do it, it should upset you when you actually do it. If not, then the issue isn't about doing it. Now, is it? The issue is about something else. Go to court and prove it before you make the allegations in public. People are doing a public trial without ever having gone to court, he said. Is that how investigating agencies work around the world? You are a first world country with a law and order system. It should work accordingly. It does. And the fact that it happens to be making you look bad at the moment is a you problem. Stop trying to make it ours. Instead of all the time that you spend trying to pretend that nothing's going on, actually look inside and fix the problem. That would be more productive use of your time, sir. 4 Indian citizens have been charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder in Mr. Nijar's shooting. We have evidence enough for charges, sir. The allegations are somewhat substantiated, at least with enough proof to lead to charges. So you might want to sit down. They are expected to go to trial as early as the summer of 2027 in BC Supreme Court, but a continuing federal court process could keep any sensitive intelligence and evidence allegedly linking India to the slaying from being brought up in their trial. Mr. Patnaik conceded that there could be, quote, a few mad elements within the Indian government involved in anti-Khalistani plots. So notice how the story keeps changing. Right? There was nothing. Well, maybe there is some people that are doing stuff, but they are rogue elements, not associated with the government at all. Well, maybe there could be a few mad elements within the Indian government involved in anti-Pakistan. Which one is it, sir? Because right now you're like Mariah Carey singing all the notes because you can't pick one. Is it absolutely not happening and it's absolutely unconscionable that we mention it? Or are there certain rogue elements that are not attached to the government as you claim? Or is it a few mad elements within the Indian government? Which one is it, sir? Because you seem to be all over the place. Mr. Patnaik conceded that there could be a few mad elements within the Indian government involved in anti-Khalistani plots. If that's true, he said, India will prosecute them. Prove it. We don't believe you. Prove it. He pointed to the plot to kill one of Mr. Nijar's associates in New York, lawyer Gurpatwant Singh Panum, and said India cooperated fully and opened its own investigation. When? After many years of denying it and until there were actually charges that were so convincing that I believe there was a guilty plea from one of them. When along that process did you decide to cooperate fully? And again, you say maybe we should ask the people at the Justice Department in the state of New York whether how full your cooperation was. See if they say the same thing, sir. In that case, New Delhi said that this was the work of Vikash Yadav, who the government described as a rogue intelligence officer. See, they're always rogue, right? He is also accused of coordinating Mr. Nijar's killing. According to U.S. court filings, American authorities are attempting to extradite Mr. Yadav, who was arrested by Indian police in a kidnapping case shortly after his U.S. indictment. Now, Mr. Patnaik said he has disappeared. My, how convenient. Because if Mr. Yadav were to be arrested and had to testify and had to tell the truth, would that truth be convenient or inconvenient for your government, Mr. Patnaik? Just happens to have disappeared, huh? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The High Commissioner also challenged concerns raised by Sikh groups after the recent appointment of Toronto Consul General Mahavir Singhvi, who has spent the past decade working in counterterrorism for India's Ministry of External Affairs. The pro-Khalistan group Sikhs for Justice filed a formal complaint over the posting, alleging that it's part of a pattern of India using diplomats to conduct surveillance on Canada's Sikh community. First of all, why are they afraid of somebody who's been in counterterrorism? Mr. Patnaik said, adding that only terrorists should be worried. Mm-hmm. India has a history of sending diplomats to Canada who've had careers in counterterrorism and counterintelligence. Parag Jain, who was posted to India's High Commission in Ottawa between 2016 and 2018, was promoted to head of India's spy agency, the Research and Analysis Wing, or RAW, in 2025. Pavan Kumar Rai, the former head of RAW's operations in Canada, was expelled by Ottawa in September 2023 after Canadian officials received British intelligence that linked Mr. Nijar's killing to agents of India. Mr. Patnaik said all countries have intelligence officers in their diplomatic missions. So when Mr. Trudeau made those comments, the government of India did not know that we had received intelligence from the United States at the time on which to base it on. And it seems that we also had intelligence from British friends as well. But it's all fantasy. Again, we know that the Canadian government is conscribing, is it conscribing the word? Circumscribing? The areas in which we are prepared to do business with India very tightly. There are certain areas where we're not willing to go. As a result of this, there's not much risk to us in education and agriculture. Could be some issues in IT, however. But the government of India, again, through their High Commissioner, who should really be replaced because he seems to be a High Commissioner from the time before we were trying to warm relations. Maybe a little reset there would be a good move on the part of India, because the man is still attempting to gaslight us as the largest trade delegation that India has ever sent is coming to town. Kitlinda, we need to be much more careful about who we allow diplomatic status from India. Kitsasi, tall windows. Kitsasi asking, was that Mariah Carey shade? Not so much Mariah Carey shade, because Mariah Carey can sing the whole notes, and she did all the notes, and she does know how to put together a run that is rather pleasing to the ear. Mr. Patnaik, I would dare say, is no Mariah Carey. Should maybe be a little less vocally ambitious. Let's put it that way. So yeah. Again, good that we are doing it, and again, doubling our trade from $10 billion a year to 50, more than doubling. Sorry, bringing it from 10 billion to 50 billion is not, going to make us ridiculously dependent just like, doubling our trade with China. Even if we did that, it was like 4% of our trade to 8%. Or something like that, is not going to make us ridiculously dependent, especially if we choose strategic areas in which to collaborate. That doesn't put anything national safety all that much at risk. But we might not want to be as eager as we appear to be to sign a full-fledged FTA, free trade agreement, at this time, at least until we start getting some very clear signals, at least publicly. Like I said, from inside, everybody seems to be agreeing that there's talks going on with law enforcement and all that kind of stuff, and it's working well. India probably has an interest in making sure that that works well, considering that it wants to decouple a little bit from China. It also wants to accede to the high rollers table at the international poker event at which everybody's cheating up from one of the lower tables, and therefore us to learn that if they want to play at the big table, they got to play by big table rules and maybe clean up a couple of things. There's probably a lot of political capital put into ensuring that all of these trade agreements that it seems to be rapidly engaging in, like we are, similar motivation in order to decouple from their hegemon a little bit. That this is a good opportunity maybe for us to get more than we would have, and they might be really needing this to work, and therefore we might have a little extra leverage that we can apply in that case. But the public face. You cannot sign a free trade agreement with a country that you say its security service is compromised and just makes things up. I don't see how you could do that as your own country with a straight face, and I certainly don't understand how the country with whom you want to sign that deal could agree to sign that deal while you're making those types of allegations that are unhelpful. Especially since everything you accuse everybody else of having no proof, you have no proof of either. Just saying. All right, kids and cubs. Again, another long one today. That's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when we do. Kit Kat. They will take our hockey and make us play cricket. Yeah, just like the Chinese will take our Stanley Cup and make us play ping pong, right? Table tennis or badminton or something, right? We'll all be doing Tai Chi or something. Can't wait for the United States to put a spin on that. Oh my God, that's wild. Yeah. Anyway, we hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring. And again, in this age where it seems that there is a lot of throttling and strangling of independent, especially pro-centrist, pro-progressive, anti-right channels like ours. So sharing the content, again, share is the best way to make sure that we get strangled less, or despite attempts to strangle us, that people still are able to find us. Remember, if you want to help us, one of the ways you can do that is by going to our YouTube channel and clicking on like, share, and subscribe. And also click on the notification button, the little bell, and bring it down to the drop-down menu to all, so that way you will get a notification every time we have something new for you. That seems to be the best way to ensure that you do find us when events like this do happen, when a social media platform just decides, hey, we're just going to strangle 94% of your viewers, your viewership overnight, just because, well, reasons. So please do share that. Very important. Like, share, and subscribe does help us with the algorithm when you click it. Thank you so very much for that. And if you would like to help us in other ways, Kits and Cubs, you can scan this QR code, which will bring you to our coffee page, where you can find the Eager Beaver Lodge's Emergency Hydration Fund. You can make a one-time or recurring donation. A moist beaver is a very happy beaver, so please do what you can to keep your beaver moist. If you do have a couple of extra loonies or toonies in your pocket to that effect, we would be definitely very grateful to be at the receiving end of them, should you be able to offer us an enthusiastic expression of encouragement for the work it is that we do here. When you donate through our coffee page, we get about 95 to 97% of your donation. You can also donate through our YouTube page with memberships and super chats and stickers. We get about 70% of your donation there. And if you are doing the Buy Canadian thing, well, then you just give us a direct bank transfer from your bank. It goes one institution to another, all in Canada. No deductions whatsoever. We get 100% of your donation there. So extra bang for your buck there. And we thank you for everything that you do to keep us financially afloat, helping us getting close to breaking even last year, which was really nice. Doesn't look like it will happen this year, unfortunately, given the throttling. We took a big hit. So, but hey, labor of love, I'm going to keep on showing up here so long as you will keep on having me. And come hell or high water, I will find a way. So, but a little help along the way, a little help from our friends is certainly appreciated. And we thank you for all that you do for us. If you are not able to contribute financially, please do not worry, because the gifts of your attention and participation are the ones that matter the most to us, and we want to hear from you, so you still need to contribute. We're still charging you a tax or tariff. It's a beaver tariff. And you need to write to us at truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com and let us know what you think about the show. Good, bad, or ugly. If ugly, please be kind, because we do love constructive critique just as much as we love compliments. We particularly love compliments, but constructive critique, yes, we will take it. Because we take critique from people from whom we would take advice. So therefore, please write to us and let us know what you think about the show. Like I said, good, bad, or ugly. If you have any suggestions for guests for our True North Eager Beaver interview project, I swear I will be having some interviews coming up. I've got a lot of names to follow up on. Just too much going on, and I'm just one person. I really need an assistant. But working on getting some of those lined up for you as well. Let's see, what else do we have here? Of course, if you need to reach us through our socials, at True Eager at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, also on the Twitter, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook. We have the Dam Fam Discord run by the Dam Fam itself. We have our Beaver Lodge Instagram run by Kit Uncover, the Beaver Bites Substack, our coffee page, lots of places where you can keep the conversation going. We do read everything you sent us. We're not able to get back to everyone. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, right down here in the comments section, leave us a little something, and we love to get your news. And thank you so much for everything, all the ways that you contribute. Remember our hashtags: Kids Who Cook, Kids Who Cultivate, and Kids Who Craft. And of course, send us your good news to make the doom scrolling a little lighter and easier to take. Very important. Because democracy is something that you do, Kids and Cubs, we have 2 petitions for you, and an actual third one that I just heard about this morning. The first one, of course, that we have for you is our commons.ca petition E7340, where we're asking the Supreme Court to look at, for something to be referred to the Supreme Court, so it could look at the Alberta Justice Statutes Amendment Act of 2025, and to direct the Foreign Influence Transparency Commissioner to immediately investigate the meetings between the Alberta Perfidy Project and the Trump administration. We are putting the thing right here for you. This is the link. The cover says, just in, White House says Iran report on draft deal is complete fabrication. Okay. And so we move on. So where was I here? Yes, the petition. I believe 29,370 signatures when we logged off yesterday. 32,188 today. It is taken off. This petition closes on June 20th. By the way, we also have House of Commons petition E7395, sponsored by Elizabeth May, asking that the House of Commons just simply stop funding Stornoway as a residence for the leader of the opposition. Leader of the opposition, again, who lives in the most luxurious social housing taxpayer dollars can afford, while he is trying to take stuff away from everybody else. So, you might want to sign that one. That one had 11,324 signatures yesterday, 11,345 today. So growing, but a little more slowly. So there you go. Oh, no, I don't have 3 petitions for you. 2, because somebody, the petition I thought was being promoted is the same one that we've been promoting the entire time. So there you go. So I have those 2 for you. Of course, May 30th, 3 days now, we'll find out who the new leader of the BC Conservative Party is. Probably somebody that is going to be extremely anti-Indigenous, based on how that race has been going. Somebody who will not be willing to be helpful on that file. Again, you still have Canada's the guy that's taking the mantle as Canada's most noted anti-Indigenous person, Indigenous hater, Mr. Aaron Gunn, still spouting a whole bunch of BS, claiming that there are legitimate concerns. Apparently, all you need to do is put the word legitimate next to the word concerns to actually make people try to believe that they are. There are no legitimate concerns that Indigenous people are coming for your land. But hey, do not let um, anybody tell you different if you happen to be conservative, because if you do, well, that means they can't push that fear button and get your data and your money. Just saying. But that is happening. And of course, we have protests on the 29th and the 30th. The 29th in Alberta, province-wide in Ontario on the 30th, against our corrupt, our Bobsy twin premiers of corruption, Danielle Smith and Doug Ford. So please make your voices known and loud and clear there. Words of wisdom, as bask, Kids and Cubs bask in the beauty of Wab Kinew telling Danielle Smith to her face, "You're a liar." We know that is not correct. I think we know that is not correct, but you said it anyway. So I'd like to respond. Bask in that. And also, wonder henceforth every time she makes a statement like that, and the journalists don't call her out. Don't say, well, is there a little inconsistency? Do not say that is not true. Why do you? Like, I'm hoping that there's a press conference at some point today where Danielle Smith rushes to a camera and said, yesterday, Wab Kinew said that what you say on that is not true. And not how do you respond to that? Why are you saying Mr. Kinew is right? Why are you saying things that are not true? That's the question I would like to put her. Let's not pretend that Wab Kinew just said something to which Danielle Smith should respond or give her impressions on. Wab Kinew told you to your face that you said something that was not true after you had already had a discussion about it not being true. What you said is objectively not true. Why do you keep on insisting on saying things that are not true when you have been called out appropriately and accurately on it by someone who knows, because he is of the community? Why do you do that? Why do you choose to wear that look? Why do you choose to be that person? would be so great if somebody would ask her those questions. Like this. And when she starts lying, so no, I'm sorry, that's not true either. And see how she handles that. Because that's how you handle a malignant narcissist. I'm sorry, that's not going to work with me. I see what you're doing. I'm sorry, that's not going to work with me. So let's get back to the thing that we are here to do. Why are you doing this? So there's some words of wisdom. That's how you handle it. That's how you shut down someone like that firmly and politely. I'm sorry, that is not going to work with me. Kids and cubs, sorry, there's lots of loud talking over there in the other room, even though they know I'm doing a show. So I'm going to try to wrap up here. Let's see. Sorry, I got thrown by that. So I did the words of wisdom. So I guess I just have to say it looks like it's a bit of a tough world out there. So please be kind to and gentle with yourselves. And now at the count of 3, may I please have you saying, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock on 1, 2, and 3. Let me hear you. What? A little louder? Ah, there it is. A little Manitoba style on that too, which is particularly appreciated. And as your loyal servant, here's a little cock-a-doodle-doo just for you. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, there you're back. Found it very, very for you kids and cubs. The thing I was looking at with regard to Latvia, very briefly here. It says that the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Canada, the Ministers of Estonia, Lithuania, and Parliamentary Secretary of Ministry of Affairs of Latvia met in Tallinn, Estonia for the 4th Canada-Baltics 3+1 Foreign Ministers meeting. Building on earlier meetings, it reaffirmed the value of this format in strengthening coordination among close allies and like-minded partners. Let's see, what is there else here? You know what? Can't scan it to find the actual announcement right here. So I am going to take a little time today to look at it and make a note to bring it to tomorrow, what it is that we had announced with Latvia. In other news, though, before we go, if we're talking about some Canadians who make us proud, number one, it's time to do our patriotic duty again tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, as the Montreal Canadiens take on the Carolina Hurricanes. Hopefully, that will tie up the series at 2 after 2 very tough overtime losses for the Habs. Hopefully, that will be a better result tonight at home. Hopefully, the Canadiens will have brought in Mason Greer from South Carolina, who sang the national anthem in both languages, so he can sing it tonight and get some love and adulation that he so richly deserves from the Canadian and Quebecois people here for having done that, especially since he was sidelined by the Carolina Hurricanes, seemingly for having done it, which is inexplicable. If you are a bit of a tennis fan, there was some mixed results for Canada yesterday at the French Open. Denis Shapovalov, who, like Leila Anna Fernandez, seems to have the French Open as his Achilles' heel, did not survive the first round, losing in the straight sets to someone significantly lower ranked. Felix Auger-Aliassime needed a full 5 and a tiebreaker to get past the first round. Mr. Altmaier from Germany, but did do that and advances to the second round. Victoria Mboko had much less difficulty getting past her first round opponent yesterday, and therefore has advanced to the second round rather easily. There was a bonus Canadian added to the mix. Cleve Harper, who was our best male doubles player, was not originally in the draw, but a team pulled out and he got the call up for his first ever Grand Slam participation. Unfortunately, lost in the first round in 2 sets. But Gabriela Dabrowski, our top female doubles player, definitely played this morning in her first round and a very convincing win, 6-2, 6-0. And it would appear that Victoria Mboko withdrew from the doubles tournament where she was scheduled to play against Leila Annie Fernandez and Deanna Schneider. So I'm not sure if she is the one who is injured or her partner, Ayala, was the one that was injured, but she pulled out. And unfortunately, Fernandez's bad luck at the French Open continued, even though she's paired with a excellent player in doubles and singles as well. Lost 6-3, 6-1. Don't know what it is about her in the French Open. They just do not seem to get along at all. And that's what we've got for you today, kits and cubs. So I will say amour et bisous. And hopefully our what's going on the political scene can calm that F down for a little bit. So I don't have that much to say. I love talking to you, but I don't really like having to have this much to say. 3-hour shows 3 times this week, just because the world's going crazy for all intents and purposes. So, amour et bisous, and we will see you again tomorrow, hopefully with a little less to say. Bye, everyone.